This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning. Welcome to The Dawn here live on Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we are sitting with the sunrise, something I like to do pretty much every day. What a beautiful way to start the day. Good morning, everybody. Isn't it a beautiful day? This morning, we're going to focus on some birding. Now, we had a leopard on the dam cam sometime last night. I saw some tracks a little while ago walking straight past camp. So we're going to go and give that a little bit of a chance to see if we can find it. One of our cam ops is not feeling very well, so Tristan is going to be out tracking this morning. So he'll be giving us a hand. But a beautiful dawn like this, there's not only me out and about. We also have Ngala with Eric and Sebastian, Maurits and Craig out at Swalu, and Taylor and Gerrit in Pridelands. And welcome aboard your own live African safari. Good morning again and welcome to The Dawn here on Djuma Private Game Reserve, where we found an accumulation of wildlife hanging out here in the safety and the openness of quarantine. This large expanse of open area just outside of our camp. It is a blessed morning to all of you. Welcome on board. My name is Steve, joined by Paul on camera. And as always, we're very excited to have you with us. Now, don't forget, we are live, we're interactive, and we would love to hear from you this morning using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. By all means, use the @FC on YouTube. And if you're under 18, please get your parents or guardians to send through any questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, don't forget to go and register on the WildEarth website. Head over to the live safari page where you can submit your questions directly there. We hope you have a wonderful drive from all of our locations. It is 21 degrees Celsius here, 69 degrees Fahrenheit with about 5% precipitation. Now, lovely little wildebeest herd here and impalas. It's almost guaranteed to find them here in the morning, and their behavior in the morning, we've discussed many times in the past, is often a very good indication of how long ago a predatory animal moved through. Now, yesterday morning, we were hot on the heels of a Pride Alliance, and there was not a single animal to be seen in quarantine. They all booked it. The Pride Alliance walked straight through the middle where these animals are, and, well, these animals decided we'll go hang out somewhere else today. And last night, I think the dam cam update about the leopard is saying about 4 o'clock. The chances are it's probably Tingana who's walked through. No, sorry, it's 2:24. 2:24 a leopard was seen on the dam cam. So that's a long time ago. Long time for these animals to have calmed down again. Again, what a blessed view, isn't it? Animals, the sunlight, and the green, the golden grass. It really is a splendid scene. These animals have all survived another evening. They are preparing themselves for what I feel is going to be a very warm day. There is a cyclone warning. I think Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, there's a cyclone predicted to hit land. I think Tuesday it's hitting Madagascar, and then I think Wednesday, maybe Thursday, it's potentially going to be hitting Limpopo and Mpumalanga. So we're going to be having to batten down the hatches. Hopefully it's not too severe, but it is being predicted to be quite something. I think it's called Eloise, which is very interesting because I met a lovely lady recently down in the garden by the name of Eloise, and she's not a nasty person at all, but the cyclone is definitely coming. It's definitely going to be causing some havoc. I think it was last year, maybe, or the year before, where a cyclone hit and terrorized Mozambique. Mozambique is still recovering. Cyclones bring enormous amounts of rainfall and wind, and huge areas of the northern Mozambique were flooded last year. I think it was last year. I do forget. I get caught in a bit of a bubble here. But none of these animals seem too concerned. Oh, let's just do a bit of pushing and shoving, wildebeest. Pushing and shoving. Jamie, no, you'll never see them fighting. They facilitate each other's sort of behavior. They both have similar predators in the form of lion and leopard when it comes to the young wildebeest. And they do often enjoy pretty similar habitats. The wildebeest don't necessarily like being in the bush like the impala do, but they do both like being out here on these open clearings. And impala are very vigilant. They've got very good eyesight, and with as many of them, a very good chance that wildebeest can go undetected. I've never seen them fight, but the impala will give way to the wildebeest, who are bigger and stronger. Can you see the wildebeest all smelling the tree over there? The male wiped his face against that tree. There's preorbital glands on wildebeest that they like to scratch and rub and mark. And one of them marked that tree, and now that one is doing the same. Preorbital is a little gland underneath the eye. You don't often see it too clearly on the wildebeest because their face is quite dark, but it is something you see very clearly on duiker. A little gland that they use for marking. It's not only anal glands that animals use, there's many glands. There's between the feet. Oh, the little baby wildebeest about to come in from the right. He's full of beans. There he goes. Hello, little fellow. He wants to play. Oh, how precious. Sonia, no, as far as I'm aware, hurricanes are a land-based wind weather forecast. And cyclones are over the ocean. So I think a cyclone can turn, forgive me if I'm wrong, I think a cyclone can turn into a hurricane if it makes landfall and continues to do its thing. But I think hurricanes are not exclusively land-based, and cyclones are weather patterns over the ocean. I stand to be corrected, so please do forgive me if I'm completely wrong in that regard. But I think that's the major differentiation between them. We have many cyclones out in the ocean between sort of the India, Sri Lanka sort of stretch into sort of the east. Lots of cyclones. It all brings lots of water and rainfall. Whereas hurricanes on land are massive big wind-generated weather patterns that don't come from the water. So I think they can transfer each other, but I'm no expert in that regard. I've never seen a hurricane in my life, apart from in the movies. Lana, it hasn't stopped. He's still going. You want to put some music to it, don't you? He's the only little one. He's thinking, where's all my friends gone? Very important play right now. He's stretching the muscles. He's developing the legs, developing the tendons and the running ability. And it's very important that a young wildebeest is able to move from birth, because if it's not, it's going to get picked off very easily by predators. So it's very important to develop your running skills, and often that is incorporated into an element of play. And this poor fellow is running around going, where's all my friends? How come I've got no friends? He doesn't know any better right now, but there should be more baby wildebeest. But for some reason there are none. And I can't explain it. No one's told me why there aren't any more wildebeest. The last couple of years has been more than a handful of baby wildebeest born to this quarantine herd. And this year there's only one. Normally they're born in December, and we're already late January, and it's only one little fellow around. But we're going to be sending you over to Maurits in Tualu Kalahari to say good morning.
That's when we'll go and have a look now. Good morning everyone. It is a stunning morning here in Tualu Kalahari. Beautiful little clouds rolling into the area, not predicting any rain though, which is positive for the feed. By the way, guys, my name is Maurits. Good morning. Behind the camera we've got Craig, as always. And yeah, so our plan for this morning is to go and follow up on the Rockstars, see if they want to wake up this morning. We did come across this beautiful male giraffe, and he was staring in the distance, and as soon as we switched off the vehicle, we heard a blue wildebeest alarm calling. So we might actually, after this, go and have a look just to see what's going on with him, and then after that head towards the meerkats. We're not quite sure where the Rockstars went down last night, so we'll have to check the burrows, quickly see where the tracks go in. And luckily with them, we know they're late sleepers, so they'll give us a little bit of time before coming out and being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. But it is a promising morning, always beautiful when the wind is nice and quiet, and the birds are singing, and you start the morning with a beautiful giraffe like this. Quite a dark male for this area. You can see also, I can't see any others in the area, so Dolly, you're absolutely right. It is a beautiful, tall male giraffe. He is fully grown, this guy. And so with that being the case, just a stunning individual to have. Guys, I don't know if you can see it. He's standing with his head a little bit difficult now, but his ossicones are actually slanting slightly to the right. And that typically shows us, you'll find that with the males quite a bit. If he looks at us again, I don't know if he's going to do that now. He's enjoying that camel thorn too much. But if he looks at us again, you'll see it. With the males, often you'll find their ossicones, the horn-like structures, slanting to the one side. And that's just because, animals are right and left-hand dominant, just like we are. So they'll definitely prefer a certain side. And with this particular male, it just shows us that he quite often, when he fights with another boy, he will stand with his left shoulder against him and then go for the swings. And that over time, that impact, all of the blows that he delivers, causes the ossicones to slant slightly to the right. Some of them you can see it very obviously. Others are just a hint of, a little twist. But typically speaking, you'll find them definitely preferring the one side more than the other. It's in very rare occasions where you find a giraffe having, a male now, especially a seasoned one like this, having perfectly straight horns or ossicones, just because they, like I said, they like to fight from the one side always. And when they do fight with one another, typically they prefer going for, or they target the rump area and then also the neck and shoulder area. When they deliver those blows, they need to get the opponent on the ground. So what they do is they go for the areas where they're most vulnerable. So if they can, hit the other boy on the rump and numb the hind legs and make him drop, they can go for the final blow. Or around the neck area, there's always a lot of important things. So when they hit that and they hit it in the right spot, the other giraffe will drop as well. Or it will be so painful that they won't want to continue. So quite often, this is still a boy that's only gotten into his prime now, so he hasn't been in so many fights. clear yes. Giraffe fights can be fatal. We had a male not too long ago that unfortunately didn't make it, and you know, that's sometimes when it's a case of just the perfect swing from the other guy. He hits him against the back of his head or anywhere around the head area, or he just hits him perfectly on the neck and he breaks his neck. I've heard rumors, I'm not sure if it's a fact, but I've heard this before, that with giraffe fights, the blows, if it's a full-on fight, you know, you often get the males just playing around, you know, when we call it necking, just practicing for one day when it's a proper fight. But in a proper fight, the blows are so hard that most of the time the fight doesn't continue longer than 2 minutes. So yeah, I'm pretty sure there's fights that does continue longer than that. But typically speaking, you know, with that neck being so long, you can imagine the amount of speed that they can gather when it's a full-on fight to hit the opponent with those ossicones and that heavy head, you know, all the momentum that it creates. So yes, absolutely, giraffe fights can be fatal. And I'd say possibly one of the more common ways for a male giraffe to not make it out in the bush, you know, when he's big and in his prime like that, there's very few things that will take him down. You know, a big pride of lions, maybe, but also when he's in his prime, he's supposed to be able to outrun them or fend them off. So it's only really something like that, you know, a killer blow from another boy, or possibly a broken leg or something like that also, which could be obtained in a fight, which will then cause them to not make it. So just like with lion fights, the boy might not die in the fight, but they could be mortally injured and die maybe a week later or so. Hayley, no, the females don't fight, they're the ones causing the fights. So that's why also when we look at the females and their ossicones, you'll find that they are a lot more feminine, almost like a little paintbrush sticking out of their heads. And also beautiful little paintbrush of hair on top of the ossicones, whereas the males, with them doing all the fighting, they are bald on top of their ossicones. So yeah, the females absolutely not even ranking order orientated, because they don't have a permanent herd structure. So they've got what we call a temporary association, so there's no need for ranking order between the females. So yeah, there's absolutely no need for them to fight. The only time that they will look like they're fighting is if they are trying to survive, you know, when there's a pride of lions trying to attack it or so, but then it won't be with her neck and ossicones. It will be more with the legs, you know, kicking and chopping with those front legs and hind legs as well. So yeah, the females, no fighting. They're the ones that's driving the boys crazy to cause the fights. But yeah, I think what we'll do is we're going to go and have a look quickly to see what those blue wildebeest were calling for, and see if we can find whatever predator it was. For the meantime, we're going to send you somewhere else, okay?
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
What fascinates me most about the animal circle of life is the intricacies between the large and the very, very small. I mean, it's very easy to go out there and find the large. Once you found the large, the cascading effects down to the small absolutely fascinates me. Alertness and situation awareness is by far the number one aspect for protecting ourselves out on safari.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Alrighty guys, like we said, we are quickly just following up on to see where those blue wildebeest were calling this morning. So with that being the case, we're going to try and have a look quickly to find the blue wildebeest first. So sometimes having this earpiece in your ear, it's a little bit disorientating to hear where the sounds are actually coming from. So just want to see if we see any nervous blue wildebeest, and then we can establish what those guys are looking at or seeing, or even if they're not seeing them anymore, just possibly see some tracks of whatever was going on. We did find the tracks for the two male cheetahs that we were looking for yesterday, and they were moving north, so I don't think that's for them that they're calling anymore. Possibly a leopard or maybe other cheetahs that they might have seen, or it could even be something as like a spotted hyena being around here. We're close to a waterhole, and we know the spotties like to do that. Mark, we only have the blue wildebeest species, the brindled gnu. Black wildebeest are not really indigenous to this area, so we don't have those. They are more high-felt animals, so more wide open grassland with cold, wet winters. Not particularly well adapted to. There's some bat-eared foxes with puppies. Not particularly well adapted to, the more arid conditions. Let me go back. They're moving behind a bush now. We should see them coming out from those bushes just now. We'll have to have a look. But yeah, to come back to your question, only the blue wildebeest. Like I said, the black wildebeest we don't really have around here. You might find them on some of the game farms in the area, but they're not exclusively indigenous to the Kalahari, so that because of that we won't have them in the reserve as well. We'll only have animals that are indigenous to the area. And there you can see some movement, guys. I know the grass is quite long, so that makes it difficult, especially with the smaller animals, to pick up on them. But always cool to see the nocturnal animals heading towards their den sites, whether it be a bat-eared fox or a Cape fox, or even, the more crepuscular ones, the black-backed jackals, those types of canines that we have in the reserve. Very special to have so many dog-like animals. It's not everywhere that you get to see them. But yeah, I'm not hearing the wildebeest calling anymore, so it could have been just like, sometimes they get afraid for their own shadow. So could have been something like that. I'm also not picking up any other animals having a look in this area. So what we are going to do, guys, is we're going to move on, see if we can locate on those meerkats where they went down, and then in the meantime we'll send you over to Steve, okay?
Thanks, Mo. Well, bat-eared foxes are very, very close to my heart. I really enjoy them. Looks like Tingana, or this male leopard, has walked exactly the same direction as the other day. We were just framing up a Wahlberg's eagle a moment ago, hoping to show him to you, but he decided he didn't want to be on camera. He was being a little bit shy today. His hair was a bit ruffled at the back. He thought, no, guys, I haven't combed my hair. Spent some time with an African grey parrot recently at a new friend's house, and loved little head scratches. I was terrorized as a child. A friend of mine had an African grey parrot. Don't know if any of you know African grey parrots, but they live for a very long time, and they develop an enormous amount of attitude. So they dominate everybody, including dogs and cats and people. And my friend's African grey used to chase me around the house and used to bite me, and I didn't find it funny. My friend thought it was hilarious. I did not. But this African grey I met the other day, called Mowgli, liked me a lot. He just liked kopi krappies, which is a head scratch. Okay, so let's just check. I had his tracks on the corner there, but the ground's a bit hard. I mean, who doesn't like head scratches, eh? Probably one of the best things in the world. And so that African grey would follow me around to get head scratches. Justin, leopards can travel far. I mean, I would say anywhere in the region from 10 to 15 kilometers. They could probably travel further, but they probably don't need to. Okay, don't have anything here. They also don't have to go far at all. If they have a kill, they can stay right where they are. Or if they have a kill and they just need a drink, they can go and spend a bit of time drinking, come back again. Okay, so there's nothing heading up. It's possible that I missed something on the junction there. Junctions are a very important place to check. I mean, what are the chances he's going to do the exact same route 3 days later? It's possible. Just go up a little bit. We'll turn around and go back to that junction, have a look. Nothing. Now, why do we check roads? We discuss it all the time because the grass is very wet. The grass is long, it's thick, it makes noise, and it's wet. So animals avoid it, and so thankfully they walk on our lovely roads, and it often makes it easier to find them. Sometimes, though, they go into the grass because of food. And then they think, oh, I'm hungry. I don't mind getting a little bit wet. Someone reposted a picture of a male leopard from years ago who went into the pan to get some catfish and came out full of mud. It looked like a black leopard. I thought that was quite an incredible photo. Whoever posted that, thank you for sharing. Quite something to behold. Okay, he hasn't gone this way. Maybe he went straight. There were hyena tracks that went straight. We often have our hyenas following our leopards. Kendra, leopards know their territory very, very well. How well do you know your favorite shopping center or your garden, your house? Could you walk around in the darkness in your house and find your way around? That's how well leopards know their area, except their senses are so much more tuned because the darkness doesn't affect them. Their sense of smell is incredible. They know it intricately. Females are born into their sort of area, so they learn it very early on. They know the safety areas, they know the areas of shelter, they know where they normally find prey. And male leopards, when they establish a territory, they move into an area that suits them. And they walk it regularly, and they could probably do it blindfolded because they almost follow an invisible trail of smell. You often find them walking on the exact same roads. Just going to update Tristan quickly because he's giving me a hand. Tracks don't seem to go north on Gary Cutline. I'm going to continue on Central, where I lost him at the junction of Gary Cutline and Central. I keep going east. So 2 hyena tracks were here. Maybe he was being followed. Sometimes it's easier on the ground. I did walk here. I just saw the 2 hyenas. I didn't see him. So it's possible he might have turned off in either direction there. Oh, here we go. There's his track right here. Okay. So why do we circle? Why do we do that? It's very important to circle tracks and to make a mark. Some people do a little line behind it so that you can find it again. And also later on, someone knows, someone's seen these tracks. The leopard didn't step in the middle of a circle. Someone saw them so you can go, okay, cool. I wasn't out this morning, but someone's followed these tracks, which means that this is not fresh. Makes sense. Otherwise, you're going to constantly follow the same tracks of the male leopard head east on Central from the junction Gary Cutline. I'll keep following. Okay, and then you update each other because the radio is a tool. I apologize for keep talking on it, but the radio is a tool so that you can maximize your ability to search. You can imagine the Secret Service guys or those guys with those earpieces in not having radio communications. They're not as effective at doing their job, are they? But having communications, they're able to do a much better job than if they were all individual man on their own. And so same out here, trying to cover this enormous area in the dense overgrown vegetation of Djuma, trying to find an animal on your own, it's doable, but it's hard. So if you've got the potential to incorporate another friend who's a decent tracker, a very good tracker, then go for it. Alana did. It's taken me a long time. I've been tracking since 2006. 2006, I've been tracking and I've been shown tracks and how to track by many people, by many senior trackers, by many expert trackers. And it's still a work in progress. But I'll be honest with you, when I worked with trackers, I didn't work as hard. Because I would be here doing the voice and the talking and he would sit on the front and do all the work for me. And since I've been training guides and working here at Wild Earth, I've been forced to implement everything I've learned. And there's been an enormous trial and error process. Oh, let's get past the little bump. It's been enormous trial and error, to be honest, but it's been great. And there is nothing more fulfilling than starting on leopard or lion tracks and finding the animal. Even not finding them, there's a disappointment that comes in. I don't know if any of you remember Herbie, who used to work with us. He used to get annoyed if he didn't find an animal. If he lost them, he used to get upset. And I mean, tracking a leopard every day and finding a leopard pretty much every day is what that guy did. He's an expert. And every now and again, the leopard would elude him. And he used to get physically annoyed. It was quite like, it's okay, Herbie. These leopards are sneaky. They aren't always easy. Okay, they're still going straight. You notice I keep turning off every now and again. It's you don't want to drive too fast. If I drive over the tracks, it becomes quite difficult to come back. He's walking exactly on the soft patches where my wheels go. And if I drive over them, well, trying to find them again will be tough. But also bearing in mind after the rain, we do talk about this a lot, but after the rain, the ground gets pretty hard. There we go. And you look at all these little soft patches where the sand is a little bit softer due to the erosion and where it's been sort of pushed down. You get the soft sandy area. That's the ideal spot to look for a track. Normally after every one of these bumps is a good spot. Go ahead, Tristan. Okay, sorry, I didn't copy you 100% there. But I'm still on these tracks, though, headed towards Hyena Road on Central. Did you say Avoca Mail?
2 Avocas and 1 in Kahuma on Chipper.
Copy, thank you. Okay, there's an two Avoca Males and a Nkahuma Lioness. Look like they might be getting onto Chitwa shortly. Okay, there, he's still got him. But once I started tracking, I like to carry on. It's one of those achievements we really want to try once we start, and you know what it's like, everybody. You've seen it before, that once we start tracking, we normally want to carry on. But anyway, it seems like Mo is also trying to track down some animals this morning. I hope he has more luck than I've had so far.
Alrighty guys, yeah, so we had a look now quickly. Steve is absolutely right. As a guide, you know, when you start tracking and you find that fresh track, you kind of need to find that animal, otherwise you sleep badly that night. It's always tough for us when the animals win, when they disappear into the bushes. Currently it is quite difficult for us to track here at Swallow. And the funny thing is, it's not because of the long grass. You know, the long grass is all right, but the main thing that's throwing us off at the moment is all of these little shrubby thingies, you know, the herbs, the creepers, that covers the actual surface of the soil. So when you see the track on the road, all good and fun, but as soon as it goes off the road, it's currently very difficult for us to follow it, which is why it's so important for us to also have our tracking team, or your tracker, to help you find the animals. You know, they are just incredible when it comes to following those tracks, even through the most difficult of terrain. We had a look and tried to see what those blue wildebeest were calling for earlier, but seems like they've relaxed, so it can't be that important. With Kylie, so I wouldn't really call it a method, but typically speaking, and this is something that I've learned while growing up on the farm, you know, many years in the bush, but also the most important thing that I've learned about tracking is never to just look straight down. You know, while you're driving, that's a different story because you just need to ID the track. But once you find the tracks and you start following it, never to look down like to your feet. Always look about 10, 12, maybe 15 meters in front of you. You get to see the path of the track a lot easier. Also, when you're tracking things like lion and your head is down and you get close, you might not see it before it's too late. So that's probably the most important thing to remember when tracking, is not to focus too much on the tracks, but more the pathway of the tracks. So if I track, instead of looking straight towards my toes, I'll find a point maybe 10, 15 meters in front of me. Then your peripheral vision is also at such a point where if there's something 40 meters in front of you, swishing his tail because he's quite angry or quite hungry to look at you, then you'll see that movement as well. So I'd say that's the most important thing. And also, you know, the main thing is just to be able to ID the difference between fresh and not so fresh tracks. You know, sometimes you might find a track and it looks really good. There's been no wind, that nothing's gone over it for the evening or so, but it was made last night. And that means, let's say if it's a lion out here in the Kalahari, he could be 20 kilometers away already. So very important to be able to distinguish the difference between very fresh tracks, let's say within an hour or within 2 hours, and then not such fresh tracks at all, which could be 12 hours old, and you are going to spend another 5 hours just getting close to the animal, not necessarily finding it. So that, you know, being able to see when it's really worth following, and then definitely, more important thing, is looking in front of you and not down towards the track always. Woodstock, so I'd say the most difficult animal probably to track is a bird, but no, that's just a joke. Tracking wise, probably a pangolin. It's really an art form that you need to know how to do, because with them being not the heaviest of creatures, their tracks don't always register, and they walk very, you know, when they move not like any other animal. They'll zigzag and they'll cross over their own tracks again, especially when they're feeding. You know, when they're moving just to get to another place, by all means, then they might move a little bit more steadily in a certain direction. But typically speaking, when they're just out feeding, you'll find them going zigzag and making lazy eights and doing all of those things, which can prove quite difficult. So I'd say that, and then if you had to think about the big stuff, let's say big 5 animal, probably the leopard. That's also going to be a rather difficult one, again, because they don't necessarily always move in a way that makes sense to our minds. They'll walk to one bush, then zigzag over to another one, and so on. Lions is easy, they just follow a route. And then the other 3 of the big 5, the rhinos, elephants, and buffalo, they're just so heavy that, I mean, it doesn't matter where they walk, you'll find tracks registering. So yeah, I would say definitely pangolin being the most difficult one. And after that, if you have to think about big 5 animals, I'd say the leopard. But I mean, guys, there's many things. There are murids, the mice, and so on. Those types of things. Annie, that's a good question. They can be both. So they are predominantly nocturnal in areas where it's warmer, so they're absolutely temperature related, their activity. So here at Tswalu, we actually have them during summertime moving during the evenings, and during wintertime during the day. And the main reason for that is just so that they don't overheat and also don't freeze. So for them, it's body temperature wise a very important thing, but also termite activity wise. So during our wintertime, it gets very cold. -8, -10 degrees Celsius during the evening. And with that being the case, during the nights, the termites concentrate their movements a little deeper underneath the ground. So it doesn't make sense for the pangolin to go out looking for food at that point, just because they'll have to spend quite a lot of energy digging to get to where they can actually feed on the pangolins. Also, when it's that cold, no one wants to be out, so they're not particularly moving. So for them during winter time, they move during the day. Anything depending on the time of the winter, you know, how cold it is, how cold it is not. But normally you find them coming out only at around 9, going back into their burrow just before 4 o'clock, you know, just before it gets cold again. And then during summertime, when it goes over 40 degrees Celsius for us, we have the pangolins moving during the evenings. So then sometimes they only come out at 1 at night, and they're back in the burrow by 6 in the morning. So yeah, absolutely temperature related, their movements. They in any way don't have very good vision. So whether it's night or daytime, it doesn't matter for them. Their sense of sight and hearing is what guides them more. Obviously, they can pick up on movement, but it's not that they are particularly, reliant on their sense of sight. They'll much rather rely on their sense of smell and hearing to stay safe, to find food, and to do their daily or nightly activities. So yeah, with their sight not being a factor, really, that it doesn't matter for them whether it's day or night. They'll still move depending on the temperature. But yeah, guys, so we did see tracks for different cheetahs though on the main road that leads past the waterhole that we were at just now. It does look like it's during the night, so we didn't particularly follow up. We also do want to make sure that we find the meerkats this morning and spend some time with them. So we're very close to being at the burrow sites, or close to the burrow sites where they prefer being, the rockstars now, either the far burrow or the Boskia burrow. So we'll just have a look and see if they are in there or out already. I doubt that they'll be out already, but we'll be able to see if the tracks go in there from last night. And then as soon as we've established which den site they are in, that's when we will go and set up the camera and, get ready to say good morning to them and show them to you guys as well. It was actually quite nice seeing the meerkats again yesterday, even though they came out very late. I mean, we didn't even have them on camera yesterday morning, but the rockstars are doing pretty well. You'll see this morning when we eventually find them. It's the babies are doing good. The adults are looking well fed. So lots of insect activities around, and that causes them to be nice and full. And the alpha female is again pregnant, so that's always positive to have. But yeah, very close to the burrow site now, so we'll have a look quickly and see if they're not maybe here. I see there's some more giraffe over there. Doesn't look like they're staring. If they are staring, they're looking at us. But they just may be baking in the sun. It wasn't particularly cold last night, but it does cool down quite a bit more than what you'd find in the Lowveld here during the evening, because we don't have as much moisture in the air, so the humidity is not as high, which causes it to cool down significantly during the evening as opposed to the day temperature, which is quite nice. There's actually giraffes all over the show, but the other ones are quite far away though. We're not gonna we'll be able to put them on screen, but these ones are nice. Like, Tyler, yes, absolutely. You'll see out here in the Kalahari, or in the more arid conditions, the more sandy desert-like conditions, you'll find giraffe being typically very pale. So it's not a genetic deficiency. It's more a case of them just, the blonder ones surviving better. Because with us not really having a lot of big tree species, you'll see when you look around, there's not a lot of tall growing trees in the area. Sorry guys, I just quickly want to show you. You see the giraffe on the dune there? How you can see them popping over the dune there. It's very far away. If you go a bit more to your right, Craig. See them on top of the dune. It's just pretty cool to see them coming through. Sorry guys, I just had to try and show you that quickly. But yeah, now they're being difficult again. But to come back to your question, it makes more sense for them to be pale in color just because it helps them to reflect more sunlight away from their bodies, which keeps them cooler during the day, because there's no real big trees for them to hide underneath like you'd find in Kruger and so on. In Kruger, because it's more green, more thick, more lush, it does also pay off for them to be slightly darker in color just so that they can blend in with the background. Here, we've got more of a sandy background, and that causes them to also be able to blend in a little bit better when they're that pale brown color, rather than the almost black coloration. So you can see those necks sticking out over the dune tops or the dune crests. Beautiful. Just a stunning morning. Lisa, so yes, they'll continue growing, but when they get to adulthood, those ossicones grow super, super slow. Because it's solid bone, so what'll happen is when it's in the birth-giving process, it will still be all cartilage, and not fused with the skull. Just to make the birth-giving process a little easier, as you can imagine, having those pointy things sticking into everywhere when they need to go through the birth canal is not going to be comfortable for the mother. So as soon as they get born, the ossicones only fuse with the skull, and then it turns into solid bone. And then it very slowly, as you can imagine, because it's solid bone, very, very slowly grows. When it gets to a giraffe where it's like, let's say, over 15, maybe 18 years of age, when it's fully in its prime, you won't see any growth anymore. It might grow maybe millimeters in a year, but you won't notice it. So with it being a rather short structure, the growth isn't really noticeable, but it will continue growing slowly from the bottom. And possibly, if it does stop growing, it will most likely be when they reach close to 20 or above 20 years of age. The males, I'd say, it's more important for it to continue growing because they use them for the fighting. It'll weigh down over time. But yeah, guys, we're going to quickly have a look and see if we can find these meerkats. For the meantime, we're sending you over to Steve, okay?
Stand by.
Yeah, but nothing coming out.
So we're at Buffelshoek now, everybody. And we've got a wonderful little beautiful grey-headed heron. Hang on a second. I'm at Buffelshoek Dam, just no sign of any leopard here. Okay, so we're going to give up on the tracking for now and focus entirely on birds for the next little while, if that's all right with all of you. It's always nice, though, when you find very fresh tracks to try put in some effort. But we'll leave that for now and focus on our heron, who is looking beautifully regal, standing there on the water's edge. He attempted for something a moment ago. Look at the concentration. I think we can all learn from the heron. In some martial arts, kung fu, I think it might be. They have the crane, and then the heron is a massive element of focus and concentration and stillness. The animal can Whoa! They do miss a lot, though, everybody. Do miss a lot. Now, they know exactly how long their beak is, and their eyes are forward facing because they are predatory birds, so they focus forward. And they're looking for fish, frogs, tadpoles, and the like in the water. And this is a breeding male. They stand with their legs deep in the water, and the length of the legs gives them an advantage against other birds, other herons. Other herons, such as the green-backed heron or the squawko, are much smaller in length or stature, and they have to hang much closer to the water's edge themselves, whereas herons, the grey-headed heron in the case of this fellow, can go a little bit deeper in. The Goliath heron, which is even bigger, can go even further in. So it gives them different niches in the habitat, different depths in the water, so they could feed on different species. Or he's had enough now. He's like, I'm so wet now, it's time to get out. Darcy, and they are beautiful birds, aren't they? Very beautiful. Okay, so my apologies, the sexes are alike. The female is slightly smaller than the male. with the large feet that are able to splay out quite wide, giving them purchase in the muddy area, at least, and to stealthily sneak up on something that he might have spotted. Let's have a look and see how successful he might be. Megan, I'm not certain, actually. I've seen them before. I can't say I've measured them before. They aren't the biggest of the birds. Don't know where I will find it. I used to have a few measurements of the feet. It might be here, but I don't think so. No. I will find a track for you and I'll measure it. They're smaller than storks. But they are decent in size. You allow them, it's like snowshoes essentially. Let's have a look at his feet if we can. Victor, quite a number of predators would prey on herons. Fish eagles, giant eagle owl, leopards and cats would as well. It is also, crocodiles also potentially can take birds, aquatic birds like this from the water's edge, so they have to be very vigilant. I think what else might be able to catch them. Definitely most at risk when breeding, because they will form rookeries. They get lots and lots of herons and mixed species, egrets and the like breeding together over water's edge. And something you'll notice with herons is that when bird of prey approaches the nesting site of herons, the adult herons move away, leaving the chicks, and the egrets stay behind, defending their chicks. And it's kind of like I'll leave now so as to breed later, whereas the egrets are like, I'm not leaving my babies to you. But in numbers, they often can be quite successful at defending. I haven't seen such a breeding site on Djuma before. I saw a couple on my drive up from the Eastern Cape, Western Cape recently. A couple big trees over some watering holes that provided the perfect breeding site for these birds. Up in Makuleki in the Northern Kruger, there are multitudes of breeding sites for these aquatic birds up there. And they do sort of little platform nests. Sort of on reed beds or trees that have fallen over in the water, trees that have been submerged in the water. You can probably hear all of the weavers. We're going to stay here a little while and see what other bird species we can find.
All right, guys, so as you can see now, I quickly jumped off the car to try and go towards the meerkats, but now these giraffe are paying particular attention. Now they're looking around again, but they were paying particular attention to me not being on the vehicle. You know, they notice this funny thing walking on two legs very quickly when it comes to being off the car. For the animals, they're typically much more comfortable with the vehicles than with us being on foot. Even though the vehicle is much larger, you know, it's slightly more of a comfort zone for them, just because, you know, they see it more often, but it's also a less threatening thing because it, technically speaking, moves on four legs. and also makes a big sound, so it's like a buffalo coming towards you, or let's say an elephant or a rhino. It's not like a lion creeping up, moving silently, trying to stalk the animal. Also, when they look at animals in the bush, the only thing that they'll ever see also walking on two legs, which is the same size as us, is an ostrich, and we don't really look like an ostrich. So quite a funny shape for them to see, and because of that, they immediately pay attention to to the situation when they see someone on foot, just because we look strange. And also we move a little bit more, I don't know if it's the right word, but threatening to them. When we are on foot in the bush, when you do a bush walk also, you try and be as silent as possible. So yeah, not particularly in the mood for that.
The sound of industry. Wonderful noises in the morning. The cacophony of sounds, the breeding birds making their nests and attracting the females. We were here yesterday evening. And it's far busier this morning. Everyone's full of beans. Distance, I can hear a Deirdre's cuckoo calling. They would be hanging around a breeding colony like this, hoping to get in and lay their eggs. Those of you unaware, Deirdre's cuckoo, as with all the cuckoos, apart from the cuckoos, are brood parasites. Only about 1% of bird species internationally are brood parasites. What that means, brood parasite, sounds quite hectic, doesn't it? But it is essentially where adults of a species will not build a nest and not practice any parental care, will lay their eggs in the nest of other birds, host species birds. And what's very interesting about the Deirdre's cuckoo is that they've developed many, many strategies due to the fact that they breed with a number of different bird species. So, wide range of birds, bishops, weavers, and sparrows. But what's very, very interesting about that is that they're able to actually change the coloration of the egg. Now, that's not a very easy thing to do. From an evolutionary point of view, to produce an egg is one thing, and to change the color, there's an entire sort of ink dyeing agent that has to be added to the egg before development. And to make the bird more successful, their adaptation or camouflage or integration of an egg so as to mimic that of the host has become a very integral part to the success of the bird. Now we wonder, how is it possible that a Deirdre's cuckoo can just change the egg? And it's not actually that easy. So when you have a Deirdre's cuckoo that was born to a Cape Sparrow, for example, then that bird will use the Cape Sparrow as its host going forward. It won't cross the species again. And likewise, if you have one that's born into the nest or hatched into the nest of a southern masked weaver, that is the species that they will use to host. So as generation goes by, the successful rearing of a Deirdre's cuckoo within one of those nests gets better and better, and the egg formation and camouflage and integration becomes more and more sort of efficient. Because what happens is that the Deirdre's cuckoo, when it goes into the nest, will push out an egg, and then replace it with one of their own. Now, if it lays an egg that doesn't look like the egg or the host's eggs, it often can be rejected and pushed out by the female. She'll come and say, hang on, that doesn't look like mine. She'll push it out. So it's been very important for it to mimic or to look very similar. And it's quite incredible how over the generations they've managed to do so. So same species, able to change the color of the egg, but as I say, due to the fact that they will follow the same species that they were reared by, to put it into words that maybe we can all understand, if myself being a South African was born into a German household, I will constantly be looking for Germans to breed or lay my eggs in. And same-wise, if I was a South African born into a Spanish household, I would be looking to go and lay my eggs in that of a Spanish family's household. Obviously, we're talking about cross species here. Roy, the intelligence is incredible, isn't it? But it's all evolution. It's all evolution. And those individuals who laid eggs that weren't able to mimic or copy the hosts very well were expelled. And those that were able to it's almost like counterfeit forgery. So they're able to forge the coloration of the egg, and that forgery or counterfeit egg is able to pass the scrutiny of the adults. And if it is reared, because then the female looks at it and goes, oh, it's my baby. And then she looks after it. And cuckoos, often the chick is able to hatch quicker than the host, which means that when they are then hatched, they outcompete the host through many different strategies. Either the hosts push the eggs out, or the cuckoo pushes the eggs out completely. When the chick hatches, it pushes the chicks out completely, or the eggs out like that in the form of the red-chested cuckoo, or it hatches first and it just completely dominates and receives all of the food. Gets in all the food, gets stronger, outcompetes, and then becomes the first and maybe even the only chick to be reared by those parents who don't really notice that they happen to have a baby amongst them that doesn't resemble either of the parents. But because they got past the brooding stage and the hatching stage, they accept it as one of their own. That's been going on for a very long time, everybody. A very long time. But as I said, only 1% of bird population around the world are brood parasites. Any more than that, it would start to become a little bit awkward. The cuckoos, widers, honey guides, to name a few. Michelle, the nests are designed in a way to hold the eggs, of course, and to be as inaccessible to any predator. So being out on the end of the branch there makes them inaccessible, and having an entrance that faces down makes them even more so. But that doesn't mean that snakes can't get in. The boomslang has evolved to be able to access nests like that, but that is the arms race, everybody. The arms race. It means that as an animal gets better at something, so the predator gets better at it as well. And so one ups on the other, and then it's a constant process of improvement. The nests at one stage probably would have been very, very limited in regard to their design. And then the birds that did a little bit better in their nest development were more successful. And so over time, nests got more and more deliberately made. And in the form of weavers, the female will scrutinize it. Almost look here going, I don't quite like the parking garage here. I'm not going to buy this house. But if she's satisfied with the design, the placement of the nest, the nest tunnel, the hole, then it gets better and better. And some birds have even evolved their nest tunnel to be designed in a way that it's a little bit too tight for the brood parasite to get in. And there are records and evidence of cuckoos and the like brood parasites trying to get in and getting stuck going into the nest and then not being able to get out. But obviously that's not always the case. Otherwise, both species would be eliminated, or at least one species would be eliminated. But they live in conjunction with each other, The brood parasite completely dependent on successful breeding of these birds or other birds like them to successfully rear their chicks. And what always fascinates me is that a brood parasite in the form of a Dedry's cuckoo gets born to a southern masked weaver or a village weaver, and yet it knows how to speak cuckoo and it knows how to breed with the cuckoo, which I think is really, really incredible. That's that sort of innate learning. They're born with that ability, they're born with that knowledge, as are the weavers born with the ability to build the nest without having to be taught. Play, you want to know if they build a new nest every day? They can. It takes between 9 and 15 hours to build a nest. If the male builds a nest and a female occupies it and he mates with her, he'll start construction of another nest straight away. In saying that as well, if the nest goes brown, like some of those do, the male will start building another nest. If a female destroys one of the nests, he'll start building again. So they're constantly doing it. These individuals anyway, down in the Cape, there were some weavers, the Cape weaver that I spent a little bit of time with recently, that built one nest, all the chicks were hatched, and then they all moved off. So each species is slightly different. The red-headed weaver will actually build one nest and then build an apartment block of nests onto the one that they started. Once a female has integrated in the nest, he'll build another one, and then he'll get another female, he'll build another one, and that can go on and on as long as the vegetation is available for it and the food is available. And this season we got lots of green grass, lots of seeds, so we should see this process continuing on. Don't you agree, Egyptian Goose? He's quite interested in all the noises here. Gonna make some noise himself. Okay, very good. It sounds like Eric is out and about this morning, and he's dying to wish you a good morning.
Good morning, everybody. We are on and beyond Ngala at the moment, and we have spent the last hour or so driving around looking for that lioness that we think is denning within this area. My name is Eric, and behind camera is Seb. And like I was saying, just before, or just actually after the end of show yesterday, we managed to find a lioness that was down in the riverbed, and I'll just quickly show you where we are and what we've been doing this morning. So yesterday, late afternoon, just after the show closed, we saw a lioness who was walking along the riverbed. And she was walking in a way that she was kind of going into these very, very dense bushes, and then she would come out into the river, and then she would walk into the dense bushes and carry on coming out. So we drove this stretch to see if we could find her, and she was showing signs of lactating. So I think that this is another female of the Birmingham Pride who has given birth recently, and so we thought we would try and see if we could find her. Unfortunately, weren't able to see her, so we've now come back out and now heading into the southern part of the reserve just to check to see if we can maybe find tracks of the rest of the pride who might have crossed in from the Kruger National Park into towards Ngala area. So that's our plan for the morning. Hopefully we'll get lucky. We had some monkeys alarm calling a bit earlier on and some very fresh leopard tracks, but that leopard, I think, might have moved away from the area, and potentially in this long grass it was quite tricky to actually spot them. So I'm just going to carry on driving for now, I think. I'll get onto this road over here. So Nola, the biggest pride of lions that we have on Ngala is that pride that I'm currently looking for at the moment. And so they're not exclusively on Ngala, and like I said, they do cross out of our boundary and go into the Kruger National Park. And it's a pride of lions who have got 18 members, including 2 dominant males, and we know that there's one female who's got at least 3 cubs that we saw, who are brand new weeks ago now. And so there's that female, and then there's this other female, her sister actually, who has, we think, just given birth. So there's a chance that, you know, if she's also got 3 or 4 cubs, that's 25 lions that we might be able to see together one day.
Welcome back to Buffelshoek, where we've got a very messy nest of a bird that is in the weaver family as well. We were discussing it last night. That is, if you were a buffalo and you put together a nest, that's what it would look like. And one of the small 5, the buffalo weaver, the red-billed buffalo weaver, that is their sort of accumulation of a nest. And over the years I've been here, that was a very busy apartment block where you can get multiple pairs of breeding red-billed buffalo weavers in there. And they're very noisy, and they're constantly rebuilding all little apartment blocks or little condos inside, and they live in those throughout the year. These other weavers that we're looking at are very seasonal. They come into breeding plumage, they breed, and then they move off. Whereas the red-billed buffalo weaver, they will actually breed, roost, as well as live in those nests throughout the year. So quite often it's a very good indication of direction, because they want to breed and they also want to live in them in the cold winter months. Those nests, for the most part, are located on the sort of northwestern side of a tree. So from a navigation point of view, they are very, very good indicators. But right now, it's lying adjacent to the water, and it seems as if little buffalo weavers have given up. Maybe it's because of the noise that all of these other weavers have brought to the table. There's like a huge party going on next to them. Megan, it does look like a giant tumbleweed. Almost makes you want to go and whistle the famous tune. There's my rendition anyway. The tumbleweed rolling through, and then Clint Eastwood with his sidearms ready to battle, saying not a word, of course. Lots of noise. And weavers are very industrious now. And so they're vitally important for the grass to have grown. So we talk about habitat, we talk about where animals live, where they breed. What is a habitat, everybody? Habitat is a place where animals are able to feed, spend their life, and breed. Now, the habitat for these weavers is preferred breeding sites over water, and they need the rain to grow the grass to a point where they can pull off long strips and then weave them together. If the grass didn't exist, these birds wouldn't be able to breed. Straight up, no potential. So I've discussed this at length in the past, but for those of you who a nest has just been plummeted into the water there. You see that? That nest was a shoddy piece of work, and someone just said, no, I'm not living in that. You can be returned to the depths. And that is what happens to that fellow's hard work. Now, no doubt he's sitting there with a little bit of a long face and he's sulking because a female just dismantled his nest. But he will learn. He will learn. His nest ability needs to improve. And the males who build the best nests, everybody, attract the females, and they are the ones who breed. And so that trait of good nest building is passed on. And that leads back into the point I was about to make. Oh, is that a terrapin now? Now the terrapin thinks it's quite a nice nest. Hello, what have we got? Chris, it doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like it. Terrapin says, I will take you back over to the shore, Mr. Nest. No, I won't. And he thought it might be something to eat. So, Chris, they seem to be busy all day long, but it's a very short period. It's only a couple of months that these guys are very busy, and then they melt back into the drab breeding, or the drab non-breeding or eclipse plumage, and then for the rest of the year, they're just migratory birds moving around, feeding, and not paying too much attention to any of this. So it's only a very short season. The season can be extended by the seasonal rainfall, which we're expecting a lot more of. So we might see a really big boost in weaver populations this year. But what I was leading on to there with regards to the weavers, they talking about the inherent ability of them to build a nest. Scientists took a group of weavers and they bred them in a cage or a box or whatever it might be artificially for a while. And then after 6 generations, everybody, 6. Can you count back 6 generations in your family tree? I certainly can't. 6 generations, they then put grass material in the box and the weaver built a perfect nest. So how is that? Imagine we were born with the ability to be industrious like that. The reason why animals are able to do so is their short-livedness. They don't have the time to go through the same parental care and teaching that humans and elephants do. They don't have the years to do so. So they need to be able to survive a year or two and then breed. And that is how many of these species have evolved. And the shorter the lifespan of an animal, generally the more inherent information they're born with. Insects, for example, are born with an incredible amount of information, normally very pheromone-based, exactly what it is that they're supposed to do in their short life. I know many of us wake up every day and wonder, what is the purpose of life? Insects wake up and just know it's time to be industrious. It's time to get stuff done. So I think we could add a little bit of a theme tune. The nest is now floating into the middle of the water there. Let's have a look at the let's think of a very sad, melancholy tune, everybody. There goes the nest floating away. That is the work, hard work of an individual who is having to look at himself now and be like, what did I do wrong? I thought I did everything just right. I mean, I was born with information and yet it was wrong. Marianne, is there a specific grass that's used? I'll jump off while Mpho is busy filming there and just grab a couple bits of grass from the side. See if I can find what they're looking for. It's hard for me to tell you exactly which species they're using. I've got a couple leaves from the buffalo grass here, which are nice long strands. And when you watch them, it seems as if these are the types of grass that they're bringing through. Seems like it's these. You often find them flying in. They pluck one of these off from a grass stalk somewhere along the way, and they bring it back. So any sort of long green vegetation like this, obviously there's a couple different pieces that they use when they're making that ring. It's a little bit tougher. They're probably using some inflorescence of grasses. When I say inflorescence, without me actually knowing exactly what they bring, they might grab some of these using a sort of a strong bit, which they make the ring. And then these pieces here are either stripped to long pieces, and then like basket weavers in many traditions in the world, we're able to knit together and make baskets out of grasses and sedges and reeds. And we probably learned how to do so by copying these birds. Very good. Okay. Let me jump back on. So it's vitally important that the grass is able to grow and be green like this and pliable. As soon as the grass gets dry, it's unworkable. They're not able to work with it. When we look at wax bills don't do much of a weave. They basically just grab long bits of inflorescence and just turn them into a circle. Many of us could do that quite easily. There's one starting on the top left there. And Paul, let's watch this fellow. You see him there? Top left. Yeah, there we go. He's just started. So he's probably, either he's the one who just had his nest dismantled. There we go. You see, there's the first little bit. He's doing a little bit of an anchor, like when you want to attach something to your roof. You get your drill and you get a little hook and you attach it. He started with a little anchor point there. So now he's going to fly off and get himself another piece. Oh, there we go. This one's going to dismantle it. He basically just said, this is not happening. Did you see that? What a cheeky fellow. And now he went down to his nest. That is cheeky. Now, that is what we call sabotage, everybody. There on the sort of middle right, you can see a fellow's just flown in with a piece of grass, just like I showed you. And he's intricately weaving it in. It looks like a bit of a mess right now, but as they go by, they get better and better, and it starts to really form a lovely sort of sphere. And each one slightly different. See, he's gone and done it. That's as much work as he can do now. I'm going to sit and wait for the fellow to come back on the top left to see how disappointed he is that his anchoring point has been dismantled.
The croc is still holding another one there. It's holding from the hindquarters. I would really want. The wildebeest cross is trying. The croc is holding the tail. It's holding tight. Oh no. Goodness me. Lucky wildebeest. You have another day to leave.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily. If you love to watch Wild Earth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions. Join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day. Our first Wild Earth Explorers competition has closed, and we have a winner. Congratulations to Chantal Sleep from Benoni in South Africa.
I felt totally overwhelmed for winning this prize. I will be taking my son with me, and I can't wait to share this experience with him.
Chantal and her son have won a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tented Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay and a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse.
I would like to thank Wild Earth for making this dream come true, and I encourage everybody to subscribe, to become an explorer, and stand the chance to win these amazing prizes, and so much more.
For this month, we have a brand new prize. You could be jetting off to Tswalu in the Kalahari for a 3-night stay at the luxurious Motsi Lodge. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
He's back, everybody, and he's trying to think, who on earth messed with my anchoring point? And that guy on the bottom right there is looking guilty, isn't he? He's going, it wasn't me. Wasn't me. You know, that sort of behavior. It actually seems like, oh, here we go. Yeah, they're going to have some words. Now, if you wanted to do a voiceover here, you'd probably be able to put some very interesting vocals. He's going, what happened to my anchoring point? How dare you? What on earth did I do to you that you thought you could just dismantle the hard work I put here? And he's saying, you want to hang out in my territory? You're going to have to play by the rules, sonny. Okay, he's now, they often will also strip the end of the branches off stripping all the leaves and vegetation. This tree is dead, so they haven't needed to do that. But they do that with some trees. They often make an enormous mess if they're in your garden. And if you ever have palm trees or trees like that in your garden, the weavers, some species of weavers, will strip the palms for making the nest, because the palms essentially make very long strips, which are probably more beneficial. There we go, he's starting again. Have a look, it's the beginning. It's the most important part. See, I was just taking a small strand of vegetation and wrapping it around, tying knots. So in this species specifically, the male will build on average 3 to 5 nests in a season, and replacing or removing any nests that the females don't choose, and then building again. I've seen footage. Oh, okay, now let's see how long that lasts. If his friend is going to come and say, I don't like your bit of grass hanging here. It's not a very good piece at the moment. It was much better before his anchoring point. Greg, so frustrated indeed. Can you imagine starting and doing your thing, and then a friend of yours, or I don't think there's any friends here, they're all competing for the right to mate. So it is what it is. You've got to exert dominance so that I suppose when someone tries to mess with your nest, he's afraid to do so because he's scared of what you might do back. So we've got on the bottom, the middle right and the middle, you've got 2 nests in the process of being built at different degrees. They're stealing. Cheeky boys. So everybody's got it. Everybody's involved. Look at him. He's like, I'm going to steal a piece from your nest while no one's watching. What a cheeky fellow. Wasn't me. Look around. Anyone looking? Oh, I'm going to steal some from here as well. Or maybe he's actually using that nest. Reminds me of growing up with my brother. He steal things from me when I'm not looking, and then claim innocence. It wasn't me. Must have been somebody else. Oh, nature is wonderful, isn't it? I love you, my brother. Greg, out there if you're watching. Okay, so, you know, kids, and they're building a castle, or they're building something in the lounge with books or with whatever. There's always a little bit of theft when it comes to when you're not looking. But I wanted to use that one. Okay, look at the weaving. Indeed, Kim. Exactly like siblings in a household. Always. There we go. He's back with a much better piece. See, that looks identical to the string or the strip that I had before. Now he's got to figure out how to... Oh, he's like, hang on. Okay, over here. Through there. Look at that. Look at that weaving ability. Phenomenal. Tying a little knot. Pull it through. Now pull it nice and tight through one more time. Yes. Nice anchoring point. One more time. He's got it this time. Now hopefully, sorry about that, I just knocked over my coffee flask. He's looking around going, anybody dare? Here he comes again. This fellow keeps coming from the bottom right, doesn't he? And pretends he's not really coming. Okay, so those 2 pieces, he had that thin little strand. Now he's integrating that with the thicker. Chris, it's not too difficult, actually. I mean, they just grab a piece of grass off of the grass stalk and they fly across with it. We'll try and get one in frame as they fly in, but as you can see them flying just with this little bit of nesting material dragging behind. It's not very heavy. It's very doable. But it means that they can only bring 1, maybe 2 strands at a time. So it's a very long process. And someone's dissected them before. Someone has worked out that 384 green strips of reed, palm blades or grass blades, each piece 250 to 300 mils long, with the roof containing on average 189 grass leaves and 137 tree leaves. So that is an enormous amount of nesting material that these birds have to travel for. They've got many species in here that they talk about that they use. The guinea grass, the buffalo grass is what I grabbed before. They'll use feathers as well, many different grass leaves. So it's not specific to many species, but definitely the guinea grass or the Panica maximum falls in a very, very large portion. Lioness, it is amazing. We like spending time watching birds building. Got some coffee. Paul's got some snacks. So we're well placed. There we go. Look at that nice long piece he's integrating in there now. Slowly comes together. You know, if you've ever built a basket before, or not that I have, it always looks a bit messy in the beginning. But as it gets integrated and woven, slowly but surely starts to take shape until it's the perfect shape. The male thinks so, and the female comes along and says, no, I don't like it. Destroys it. Instead of sulking, he just carries on, builds another. So there where you can see the males hanging underneath, flapping their wings, that's what happens when there's a female watching. And she's investigating, going, okay, nest 1, 2, and 3. Who's the prettiest male? The plumage comes into play, because if he's not in breeding plumage, she won't select him. So first of all, he's got to look the part. And then second of all, he's got to have built a nest that is structurally sound. And so she'll first look at it from the outside, and then she'll go inside. There you can see on the left there's a tail sticking out. She's having a little look. I think that's a female in there. Having a little look. She'll feel it out. See if it fits her body nicely. Oh no, that was a male. My apologies. Okay, I'm not certain, but I mean, small birds like this live for far longer than many people think. I mean, I found out recently that Indian miners can live up to 18, 20 years. They're quite a small bird. Hornbills can live up to about that same sort of age. So if they survive and don't get eaten, longevity for small birds like this is definitely into the teens. But I'm not 100% certain on every single species. But they definitely live longer than we are often aware of. But they are hunted by many, many species, specifically goshawks, sparrowhawks, and the like. There we go, he's back again. He's got some pretty good acrobatics there. Oh, look at that. I think the anchoring point is a very important part. It all comes down to the foundations. Build them strong, and the nest will maintain itself. Don't forget, everybody, we do get very windy days. And often after a very windy event, you can find a number of nests have been destroyed or fallen. Sometimes even eggs or babies themselves fall out of nests. It's why the females are so discerning when it comes to selecting a nest. It needs to be perfectly built for the survival of her chicks. She doesn't want to waste her energy on a half-hearted house, half-hearted breeding area. So males, I think, who build it a little bit too quickly aren't going to have the exact desired nest at the end. Slow and steady, I suppose. Okay, very good. Well, we're going to stay here with our weavers a while longer and see if we can document a little bit more of the breeding and send you over to Mo in Tswalu, Kalahari.
Alrighty, guys. So yeah, epic sighting. The guys have just woken up. Our timing was actually just right, just as we finished setting up the camera and so on. The first one came out. As you can see, there's one little one baking there in the sun with mom. When she turns towards us, you'll actually see the belly is quite nice. And oh no, wait, it's the wrong mum. The mother is the one on the left-hand side. You'll see the belly is nice and round. Both of them female though. So with that being the case, it's probably the alpha and the beta female that's already out with the one little one. And the rest are still sleeping. Or the pups, I'm pretty sure, are all awake. I heard them calling inside the den just now. But just stunning to have them out and about and, you know, seeing these guys again and be able to show you guys again how they're doing. As you can see, all of them looking in very good condition at the moment. Like I said, the insect activity has been incredible. So they are not struggling to find food at the moment at all. And with that being the case, everyone goes to bed with full bellies. Justine, you're absolutely right. There's something about a baby meerkat that just steals your heart. Very, very cute. I do hope that his brothers and sisters join him out here soon. Because if there's one thing that's better than a baby meerkat, it's 4 baby meerkats. There we go. So no, very, very nice. This group has now grown up to 9 guys, so doing very well. We're seeing that with most of the meerkat groups at the moment, even the ones that are not habituated to us being on foot. Huge explosion of numbers as far as the meerkats is concerned. You know, over the past 5 years, with the drought being so bad, unfortunately the meerkats numbers did take a hammering. I mean, to give you an idea, the Xhosa group, which is one of the groups that we sometimes show you guys as well, they were, well, when Veronique started here, she said they were 22 or 24 individuals. You can imagine that's a big group of meerkats. And over the past 5 years, they've, well, not only suffered, but also had bad luck to a certain extent. And they went down to 3 adults at the moment, and then the existing pups, so not a lot of adults left in the group. And with that being the case, luckily, the insect activity that's picking up, and you know, the easier conditions with all the rain that we've been having, that helps them to keep everyone's bellies full, is also keeping them strong and healthy. So to be able to run away from danger and, you know, defend themselves against smaller predators and those types of things, that's becoming a lot more easy because their condition is better, which means there's more of them surviving, which means their numbers will be up relatively soon as well. She told me that yesterday when we were waiting for these guys to wake up, that both the alpha female and then the young female in the Xhosa group, so that is going to be alpha and beta because there's only 2 females in that group that's adult at the moment, are pregnant again. So you will find that even though the alpha female is the one that most dominantly breeds or reproduces, in a case where the group numbers require it, you will find the beta female being allowed sometimes to fall pregnant and have their pups. Occasionally, if it's not necessary or if the alpha female doesn't feel the need for it, the beta female might fall pregnant, but then she'll either have to abort the pregnancy, or if she does give birth, you'll find that the alpha female unfortunately kills them. So it is still a competition thing. You know that ranking order is quite important for these animals. But every now and again we see a special situation where both of them have puppies, and where both litters grow up and, you know, just make the group that little stronger. But yeah, guys, we're going to stick with them for a little bit, see if they don't want to become a little bit more active. For the meantime, we're going to send you over to Eric.
So we've got something that's really, really nice to see at Anbjörn Ngala. It's a southern carmine bee-eater. And they're a summer visitor that we don't see very often at all. So to see one so close up and perched in a way that we get to see its beautiful colors is really great. And it's one of, for me at least, it's one of the prettiest bee-eaters that we get within the sub-region. And it's got that beautiful pink breast and then that turquoisey head, and then also lots of turquoise around the rump and the back of it. So you can see what it's doing. It's looking around a lot and it's just looking for insects. There's a nice example of the blue over there. Just look at the colors of this bird. It is really beautiful. And it's got a very long tail feather that acts almost like a... You get to see, it's really showing off for us. And so it's sitting there waiting for insects to fly past. And these bee eaters are incredibly aerobatic and they're very agile on the wing. And so they hunt insects like that, and they'll take off, swoop down, catch an insect, and then pretty much land in exactly the same spot. And that pink isn't looking completely lush and popping like they usually do. And I don't know if it's whether it's a female or maybe a male adult. But it's a really cool bird to see. So Viola, give me a second. I don't know the weight of it. I'm just checking in my book. Okay. It can weigh about 60 grams, it says. About 25 centimeters. And if you listen to that call, there we go. There's actually a few here. I don't know if we'll be able to... It might be a bit of a stretch for the camera to loop around this way, but this one that's here... And there's one right over here too. We're getting surrounded by these birds. So that is like a proper example. And you can just see how much more that pink pops, like I was trying to describe a bit earlier on. So that one is definitely a juvenile. This is what the adults look like. And it looks like that the adults are pretty much exactly the same. We are no more than 2 meters away from this bird. It just literally came and perched right next to us. I think this might be one of the closest views I've ever gotten of a bee eater. Look how close we get to zoom into it. I love just how the colors work on it. I mean, the pink goes into that brown so nicely. Look at the rump and those beautiful streamer feathers. This must be one of the best views I've ever got of a Carmine bee-eater. So we are going to stick around and admire the beauty of these bee-eaters a little longer. I might try and get some photos myself. And whilst we do that, we'll send you across to Taylor so she can say good morning.
It's a beautiful morning out here with quite a few zebra, impala, and a couple of bird species too. Just enjoying the warmth of the sun and the gentle, cool breeze that is upon us. It's quite nice to not have to worry just yet about wearing long sleeve shirts and, well, long pants. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Gert, and we are here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger National Park. So we're just sitting on zebra clearings at the moment, and we had an abundance of game. But before we go back to the zebra, Gert, in this dead tree, I don't know if you can see in the middle branch up there, just a little point, there's a tiny little bird, and it was calling quite nicely. You've got it just sitting up top. It's very small, as you can see, and it was doing a beautiful call. Hopefully it will do it again for us, but that is a rattling cesticula, which is one of the very common sort of small bird species that we see around here. We normally see them before we normally hear them before we see them. And then just down below it, a common visitor that you'll see on safari if you come up to the Lowveld. It is a red-billed hornbill. Hello. How are you? Just enjoying itself. Perfect tree, of course, for all the birds to sit and catch the rays, and there they go. And then another thing that animals will use trees for, can you see all those zebra just gathered down in the distance? They're all having a bit of a rub. Bit of a scratch. Of course, I always think it must be so tough for the animals. This is the thing I really feel sorry for them, is that they don't have hands like us, and they also don't have nice, like, anti-bug spray. Well, there's some plants that can do the trick. They've only got their tails to try and keep all the bugs at bay, but a fallen tree like this, courtesy of the elephants, they most likely pushed it down or ring-barked it, and then it came tumbling over, forms a really good scratching post. And I'm sure there's lots of other species of creatures that are living around there. Probably lots of lizards or skinks. Squirrels would like that too. Alice, you're quite correct. It is nice how trees play different roles in the wild. Can you hear the rattling cesticula now? I'm just going to sit quietly. You can probably hear it. True, true, true. Shake, 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 rattle. That's how we remember it. But no, Alice, you're quite right. Trees are very important. Obviously, they're more important when they are alive, as they play a very important role from producing flowers and allowing various insect species and bird species to feed on the pollen. And then, of course, animals will eat the leaves. Animals will eat the flowers too, and trees put valuable nutrients back into the soils too. But then when their time has come, whether it is because they're just old and have died, or if it is because of the elephants, or maybe lightning has even struck them, and they do come crashing down to the ground, the ecosystem that forms around it is quite spectacular. And it's something that I highly recommend, but just watch where you put your feet. If you are out on a bushwalk, or if you're at home and you have found a fallen tree and all the grass and stuff has started to grow around it, go and have a look. Go and see what insect life is there. Turn over the bark very gently. You don't want to destroy any potential sort of shelter that maybe a scorpion could be using, and sort of have a look. But like you see, the wildebeest that normally lives on zebra plains, I don't know where he is, and also the zebra are using it as a rubbing post, which is quite cool. There's quite a bit of an invasive plant species that's growing around here. I'm not sure what it is, but it's like completely taken over this area, which is not so great. There is lots of Datura stramonium, Mulpitta, that's around you, that's not from here. There is a type of cassia that's also growing, the invasive species version that we get. We do have some indigenous cassia. There you go. Taylor tangles or trips over her words, as she normally does. And they're the impala that I said were also here. Just a small herd with a couple of lambs, although they're growing up fairly quickly. But we're going to move on from here and head towards the north, towards Leopard Dam. And speaking of watering holes, Tristan has got something interesting at Vuyatela Dam.
Indeed I do. I've decided to come and take control of the dam cam, which should be a lot of fun. Hopefully we don't mess this up too much, but anyway, we'll see how it goes. For those of you who don't know who this disembodied voice is, my name is Tristan. I am on dam cam duty today, so I don't even have a cam up. I am the cam up as well as the presenter from the dam cam itself. But as you can see, we've got a nice little waterbuck male that is sitting, resting very comfortably at the moment. He's having a great time. He had a little bit of a drink just now, and now he's basically sitting with the only stump that could possibly cover his face in the way, which is, well, par for the course, isn't it? At this time of the year, it seems the animals have this innate ability to find anything that they can put in front of their faces in order to block our view of them. But he had a little drink, and now he's sitting down. Like I say, he's regurgitating balls of grass, probably. These guys are big grazers, so with all the lush summer green grasses that are around, he's been having probably a great morning feeding. It is a nice, cool, beautiful morning with the sunlight out there. I was out for a little bit helping Steve with Tingana's tracks before coming back, and so it was the perfect kind of grazing conditions for a lot of these animals. And now that he's filled up his stomach, he can sit on the edge of the dam and ruminate. And so what he'll do is he'll basically be regurgitating balls of ready chewed grass up into his mouth. He'll be using those molars and premolars to basically sever all those little bits of grass and then drop it back down into his stomach, where the grass will get into the fluid, and so those tiny little bits that have been ground down to almost a paste will float off and then be absorbed down the four-chambered gut system. So it's a very efficient way for prey animals particularly to enjoy their food and still be able to see what's going on when it comes to predators. Tando, you're asking why are waterbuck hardly seen in the water? Well, that's probably because in the areas that we operate in, so Phinda, Ngala, Pridelands, and here at Djuma, we don't have very flooded systems. So yes, we have these dams, but the dams offer no nutrition for the waterbuck, and there is an inherent danger of something like a crocodile. So where the name waterbuck comes from is not because this animal is always going to live in water. It's because it's generally found around water, and there's two reasons for that. One is that it is a perfect place to escape predation. So if they are chased by lions, wild dogs, leopard, cheetah, they can go bounding off into the water and are pretty adept at negotiating their watery environments. The other thing is that generally close to water is fairly good grazing. So they know that on the fringes of those rivers or dams, often there's good food available, and so that's why they often spend time around water itself. They don't actually live in it. It's not something that they kind of spend all their time in. It's just that they utilize it when needed from now and then. But if you go into some places where you get a bit more flooding taking place, then you find these guys and you see how kind of aquatic they can be. They'll cross channels and wade around in little marshy wetland areas quite happily. They don't mind too much. Now I'm going to just try and see if I can show you the horn structure of this. Sorry, I do apologize about my zooming. It's still getting used to the controls of all of this. But if you have a look at its horns, do you see it's got these incredible ridges on top of the horn structure? Now, those are there for a specific reason. If you had to look at something like a nyala, which is a lot smoother, they have a lot more issues when it comes to... Oh no, camera, don't focus on the wrong place now. Let's just go back a little bit. The camera's picked up the grass moving in the background, which they do. But anyway, you got the idea of those little ridges. But something like a Nyala has very smooth horns, and that's why it tries to stay away from fighting. Smooth horns don't grip, and therefore there's a serious risk of stabbing themselves. Something like a waterbuck, though, with these ridges, and you find it on impalas and various other animals, those ridges, when the waterbuck is fighting, are going to grip and they on each other, and they're going to have an ability to then push each other around, test each other's strength, and dominate from that point of view, rather than actually hurting one another. The idea between those jostling sessions and clashing of horns is not generally to kill one another, but is more to try and find a dominance within the two males, and therefore kind of test their strength. So those ridges are vitally important in keeping these waterbuck alive when they're fighting as much as they do. All right, we will carry on keeping an eye out on our waterbuck, but we'll probably go zooming around on the dam and see what else we can find. In the meantime, let's send you across to Mo in Swalu Kalahari.
Okay, guys, so a little bit more activity as far as the adults is concerned. The little ones are still enjoying the sun a little bit, but the alpha female, has started doing a bit of burrow maintenance. You can actually see they've done quite a bit of maintenance on this burrow that we're looking at right now. Yesterday afternoon, lots of digging and new, fresh, sand. It's still seemingly wet. From yesterday afternoon when they were clearing out the burrow. The little ones are just, practicing their spotting skills at the moment. They've gotten it down to spot me, but they also need to continue practicing, especially their aerial spotting. Greg, that's a tough question to answer. There's so many things that burrow at the moment. Active burrow sites within a territory of the meerkats, that is typically around 5. Anything between 4 and 5. However, we've got so many burrowing animals. There's aardvark, there's pangolin, there's warthog, there's porcupine. We've got the meerkats, the Cape ground squirrels, bat-eared foxes, the Cape foxes, the black-backed jackals, and that's just to mention a few of them. So over 110,000 hectares. I won't be able to tell you the exact amount. It's going to be thousands. However, within a meerkat's territory, depending on how successful they are and how big the group is and also how big their territory is, they'll range between either, if it's a small territory, maybe 3 different den sites. If it's a larger territory, they can go up to 8. And within a burrow or a den site, you'll find different burrow chambers. So in this particular case where we are right now, they've got in this little clump of grass at least 3 different chambers that we know about, and there will be burrows going into each of those, which are separate from the other chambers. So then they can utilize, even if it's the same site, different burrows and different chambers, depending on how the necessity calls for it, So yesterday they were in the same spot, but they were in another chamber. And that just helps to keep the parasite load, of ticks and fleas down, also the smell, and it causes them to be able to stay in a specific site for a little longer. However, when they feel like the insect activity is dropping a little bit, they'll move to another site where they'll also have different systems. Vera, these little ones are about 2 months old now, so about 60 days. The mom is again pregnant we think about a month. She's a month along, and the typical cycle for, or gestation period for the meerkats are around anything between 60 and 70 days. So she'll most likely give birth in another month, which will cause these little guys to be around 3 months old, which is the perfect time for them to start operating without, a babysitter. Drinking milk, also, they won't need it by that time anymore. They most likely don't need it now anymore. They'll be feeding on insects quite strongly at this point. But they're about 2 months old, and then the mom is pregnant again. So with the times being so easy, she would have regained her condition and fallen pregnant. Well, this is now a month after they were born. So very, very positive vibes going around with the meerkats at the moment here in the Kalahari. But yeah, these little ones are 2 months. The Mukala group, they're about 3.5, maybe 4 months old already. That female is not pregnant that we know of again. But yeah, about 2 months old, these little ones. But yeah, guys, we're going to stick with them for a little bit. You can see most of them are out now. But for the meantime, we're going to send you somewhere else.
See, we've left our waterbuck and have started to do some birding, which is actually what I was really hoping to do with this camera. There's a few birds that are around. So starting on the left-hand side, who is gently herding the grey heron, is a yellow-billed stork that is busy trying to find some semblance of food. So if you see what it's doing, I'm not going to zoom too much more because otherwise we lose a bit of quality of image, but if you look at its feet, watch what it does. As it walks, it gets into the grassy areas and then it shuffles its feet, and it's basically trying to disturb the bottom of the dam. So it's trying to kind of kick up any frogs that might be sitting there, any crabs, freshwater mussels, and as they then disturb, they try and kind of move and they touch its feet, and then it grabs it with this massive beak that it has. And it's actually been fairly successful. As I've been watching it, it's managed to catch a few little things here and there. I would imagine mostly frogs. There could be the odd little fish that's hiding out in those flooded grassy sections. It's the perfect refuge for a small fish in a big dam like this. It's exactly why the heron is also there, same reason. They both are basically utilizing the exact same food source, just slightly different techniques. You see how the heron doesn't actually use its feet at all to disturb things. It just kind of bumbles about on the edge of the dam until it spots something, and then uses that long neck, which it will kind of coil and basically get into a position where it can then fire it out and grab whatever fish or frog it's seen. So cool to watch. Anyway, we'll keep on birding. I'm sure there's lots of other things to see. Hopefully the white-faced whistling ducks that we're calling will also make an appearance.
Welcome to Torchwood, everybody, where, believe it or not, there is a herd of elephants. There was a very small little baby. Now, we left Buffelshoek watering hole, and we found very fresh tracks of that male leopard with some scat. So we continued following it for a little bit towards the east, crossed into Torchwood, and we heard some francolins going crazy. So we went in, up on this crest, very sandy soil, and very dense vegetation. We haven't found a leopard, but we found a herd of elephants with some youngsters. So they were a little bit stressed when we saw them. They made a bit of a noise. It is windy. The females started streaming a little bit on the side of the temporal glands. I don't know if that's because of us or because there's a leopard in the area, but we're not going to push them. And we weren't able to find this leopard, so we're going to head back towards the road. See, when we do find or hear alarm calls, especially with francolins, they start making this grr, grr, grr. I can't do it very well. Often that's predator of some sort. But we're on some very fresh tracks. So I thought to myself, maybe we'll be lucky. But if it is a male leopard and he encountered these ellies, he would have made himself quite scarce. Plenty of nest building material around here. Oh, had a grasshopper there, but he jumped away. With our milkweed grasshoppers. Very good. Well, we're going to get out of here again and carry on with our morning. Send you over to Eric, who's had some success with his track.
We've just managed to find these lions, and look what this young female's doing to this group of zebra. Such amazing timing. So this is part of the group of lions that we were actually searching for in the southern part of Ngala, and they were found by Tessa about 15 minutes ago in the central part. So I was looking in completely the wrong area, but it's really nice to see these lions here. Excuse my head. We've got more of them that are in front of us in the bush, and I'm sure you'll be able to, especially if you've been watching Wild Earth for a while, recognize that big white male. And so this is a group, it's literally just the sub-adults, so there's only 8 of them here, and they're all part of the Birmingham Pride. And when they were first found, Tessa saw them feeding and finishing off a very young wildebeest calf. So by the looks of it, this group of 8 were able to catch something probably early on this morning, and obviously wasn't enough for all of them. So that's why that female's trying to chase after those zebra. And it's really nice to see that they're capable of looking after themselves at this age. And there's not a single adult around, and I suspect that at least 2 of the 5 females are in a spot and looking for the den, or are looking after the brand. So at least for the next one, it's probably quite a common sight for us, seeing a group of young, of these 8 all together and by themselves without any adults around. You might be able to hear some impala's alarm calling still. And there's a group behind us that the lions were moving towards, and obviously their cover's been blown, so there's no point in trying to hunt them, and I think that's why the majority of them have now settled in this shaded bush. See, especially that one that's lying down next to the white male, he's got a very full belly. Yeah, so Kyla, this pride is definitely in good condition, and that's what I was saying earlier on. It's really nice to see that the group of sub-adults, who the oldest ones are around about 2.5 years old now, and it's good to see that they're capable of hunting themselves, and they need to be lucky because they're not nearly as skilled as a fully grown adult will be, but at least they're capable of catching things and being able to provide for themselves and not relying so heavily on the females. You see that as a young female, she's looking really nice and big, got quite a big, strong neck to her. And I would imagine that it would have been the group of 5 females rather than the 3 males that would have done the majority of the hunting early this morning. There's still that one lioness who, I know she's settled down, went off and started chasing those zebras, but I think she's now relaxed again. I think I am just going to slightly just reposition so we get to see all of them together. We're in a position where we can see a few of them and they're obstructed by the branches. So I'm just going to reverse and position. It will take me a few seconds and then we'll give them with their heads up. He is growing into his mane so well. Miley, it's a good question, and I don't think there's a set age that they start learning how to hunt. Okay, I think they've been watching their mothers hunting pretty much since they were born. Well, definitely from about 3 or 4 months old. And they would almost practice on each other, and that's what's so essential with playtime with lions, is that, that stalking and pouncing on one another just helps build the skill set for them to be able to hunt themselves. But I would say, from around about this age is probably when they are capable of catching something on a regular basis. Their skills and their practice is starting to pay off. But even still, if we were to compare these guys' success rates to their mothers, it would be way, way, way lower. And they're learning as they go, I guess. So from the age of about 4 or 5 years old, I think you can classify a lioness with enough experience to be a skilled hunter. So whilst we wait and watch and see if these lions move more in the morning, I think let's send you across to Tswalu.
All right, guys, so yeah, quite a bit more activity. They're upping and downing a lot now. I think they're getting ready to start moving out and starting to forage, for things like scorpions and so on. We've got a huge amount of scorpions out and about at the moment, not necessarily at this very time, of the day, but during the evening we see them a lot. However, these guys, they specialize in finding them when they are under the ground. So you can see there's quite a bit of looking around and, lots of energy. The pups just went back into the burrow site, but I'm pretty sure they'll be back out again. They've been playing quite a bit. And it's warming up nicely now. I was mentioning to Craig just now, it's amazing how these guys, this particular group, suns themselves for so long. They must be very warm by the time that they start moving. But again, like we've mentioned previously, their foraging does seem to be very successful at the moment.
Right, so as you can see, we're busy just panning around because impalas went absolutely crazy and started alarm calling and then started running. So I'm trying to see what could potentially be around. They were staring in amongst these bushes over here where this tree is. It's just the grass is so long and there is so many trees in the way. I can't seem to see anything. Maybe it's just the scent of a leopard that's around. We know there was a leopard here this morning at about 4 o'clock in the morning. Just going to pan back to them, water back, and see if, no, they've gone all chilled now. At one point they were kind of staring in one direction, but you can see they've gotten back to feeding and taking it easy. But there was definitely something that made the impalas jump, and I wonder if it's maybe with the wind blowing as much as it is, there wasn't a leopard scent that just kind of picked up, and when one alarm called, they all did, and then they panicked because they were in the long grass and went running off to where they have a little bit more kind of open clearings that they can see what's going on. It's not so bushy. Very strange though. The waterbuck didn't seem to be too phased by it. The one female, this one over here, she looked as though she was a little bit kind of wary of what was going on. And so I'm not sure if it maybe she spotted something or also picked up the scent. She seems fine now. She actually looks like she might even be a little bit pregnant. You can see she's got quite a sort of round hanging tummy. They are quite big animals at the best of times, so you do often see this sort of curvature in the stomach, but she looks a little bit fatter than normal, so I'd imagine maybe it's that time of the year where lots of animals are still pregnant, and these waterbuck do give birth. You can see how the ears are facing in the direction of where we were just now, kind of looking around trying to see if we could find anything, and she's kind of still checking to make sure nothing is around. The ears aren't facing any other direction. Normally when you watch an antelope, their ears twist and change and constantly kind of adjust, but this one is just pointing in the direction of where all the impalas were looking. The impalas have long vanished. They went, like I say, trotting off. So I don't know if maybe there is still something here. It could also be that there is a predator right here in these thickets. We know that Hosana used to sit in these bushes over here, and you wouldn't even know he was there half the time unless you drove right on top of him. And the length of this grass from the camera doesn't look very tall, but it is actually pretty high, and so anything can hide in amongst those little bushes, especially from this camera, because you can't go around the bush and actually see what's happening. Interesting though, we'll have to keep an eye out. So it would be nice if a little leopard popped up its head, especially if it was to be that young male that Steve saw the other day. That would be really cool, so we could get a good view and see maybe who it is. It's always a little bit tricky when you can't kind of can't get any sort of footage of them, because you really just don't know who it could be. We know that there's quite a few young males that are around. I showed Steve some photos of the young male on Buffelshoek, and the one that was moving around on the northern boundary of Buffelshoek and Manyeleti, and he said the one on the Manyeleti boundary just looked a little bit too big, and the one that I saw on Buffelshoek looks a little bit too small. So I'm not really sure, who it is, but we'll hopefully get another view of it at some point. All right, we're going to keep an eye out. Maybe there'll be some movement, a little tail flick or something like that. In the meantime, let's send you across to Eric, who has had a lot more success than I'm having in finding cats.
You might see a few of these sub-adults looking in one direction. And that herd of zebra, that was chased by the one female. It's actually that female that's licking her chops at the moment, has come back. And I think they're just in a position where they can watch exactly where the lions are. And so they want to make sure that they've settled down and not still actively trying to hunt the zebra. It seems like they're satisfied that the zebra have come and had a look, and now they've actually turned and are starting to casually walk away. So by far the fullest of this group are the three males. The Sticks and Stones, he definitely does have quite an intensive stare, and I think it's just those cold eyes that obviously, when you look at they almost feel like they talk to your soul when they stare straight at you. But very, very unique in the way that he looks, just because, I mean, of that colours made him look incredibly unusual. And the thing that I like is the mane around him that's starting to grow really nicely is also pretty much white. It's like an off-white because it's quite dirty at the moment, but it's not going to change colour with age. It will stay like that. And so he is going to be a really majestic male if he ends up making it. So it was actually his mother that we saw last night who was showing clear signs of lactating and cubs suckling on the nipples. Molly, the white lion genetic is only naturally around Kruger National Park. And so, I mean, as it stands, there are 3 adult or sub-adults to adults that we know of. And then at the end of last year, there was 1 cub that was spotted, but that hasn't been seen again. So there are pretty much only 3 lions that are naturally born into. So, I mean, this is pretty much the only place in the whole entire world that you get to see these natural white lions in this area. And so it's here. There's another area that's very close to Satara main camp in the Kruger National Park. And there's a male lion who's about 5 years old, maybe 5.5 now. And he's got a group of brothers that he hangs around. So that's also a good place to see them. Otherwise, I think one of the more reliable places is at and beyond Ngala. Yeah, so there's a few of these lions that have put their heads down, and this might be the place that they settle. I think Seb and I will stick around here for a little bit longer just in case they decide to move. If they don't, but apparently the meerkats are providing a bit of entertainment, so let's go have a look at them.
Guys, have a look quickly at how all of the adults are looking in the one direction. Okay, now not the mom anymore, but most of the adults are looking in the one direction. There's some birds mobbing something in the tree, which is about 30 meters away from us. I don't think we'll be able to see it now, but it might be something like a little owlet, or there's also a sociable weaver's nest in that tree. So it's very possible that there might also be a snake somewhere there. The meerkats are all just paying attention to see if they can see what the birds are upset about. You know, it's important for them to listen to all these signs in the bush and take note of it, because it might warn them of potential danger if they're moving in that direction, or if it is moving in this direction. So yeah, very important for them to not only use their eyes to spot danger, but also listen to all the different alarm calls or signals in the bush that'll help them stay alive. You can see the babies are completely relaxed. They don't know what that sound means yet. The one is quite set on digging. Did you catch that? Gwen, just repeat the message. I didn't catch the middle part. Justin, yeah, sorry, I didn't hear your question the first time. As you can imagine, with the meerkats being quite small, their chances are lower than what you'd want them to be. So at the moment, because there's enough insects, and like I've mentioned earlier, everyone's condition is very good, so they can spend a little bit more time looking out for danger as well. The success rate is a little higher, but I'd say Typically, it's around, if we have to talk about a percentage, it's going to be around maybe 30 to 40% success rate for the little ones to reach adulthood. So out of this group, if you had to work hard statistics, you might have 2 reaching adulthood, which I know is a 50% success rate, but we can't necessarily say 1 3/4 of them are going to make it. So I'd go for 2, but normally what you do find is if a group is as successful as it is right now, you'll find the entire litter making it. And then what pulls down the average is sometimes when there is a snake after the pups are born, when there is a snake coming into the burrow site, they'll easily wipe out an entire litter in an evening. So that then takes that percentage down. It's just like with lion cubs, where you find the litters, or the percentage, let's talk rather about the percentage, being quite low for them to reach 2 years of age. It's only 20% for them to survive, 80% mortality for lion cubs. However, typically speaking, when you do find a cub or a litter being, or a mother being a good mother, you'll find that she raises entire litters, and the ones that are not successful, the whole litter doesn't make it typically, which is why that success rate is so low. After reaching adulthood, the meerkats also have a high mortality rate, as you can imagine, because there's so many things that can go for them. Honey badgers, snakes, raptors, you name it, they'll go for them. African wildcats, all of those things, jackals. So constantly in danger. However, luckily their numbers are quite high, so they're not in danger of being, extinct or something like that. But guys, have a look at how cute it is, how these babies are just passed out on the ground. You're absolutely right. They're very, very cool. The cutest little things. And lazy to wake up early in the morning. It's for those little bodies, when they're active, they are active to the extreme. And when they rest, it's the same case. So for them to wake up early in the morning, you can see it's quite a process. 2 of them have just, passed out in the position that they were. That one was busy digging a hole and all of a sudden just fell asleep. Very, very cool. This warm sand on their bellies at the moment is just amazing. And there's a stretch as well. That is very cute. Very, very cute. And for them to warm up, that's also a very effective way of getting their body temperature up, because with the sand being nice and warm at the moment, the bellies have a very thin layer of skin. Also, it is where the intestines lie, so that's where most of the body heat is in any way created. So with that being the case, when they heat up that even more, the body temperature rises quite quickly. So then they can start doing what they need to do, or they can get to that point where they're so comfortable that they fall asleep just there where they lie. You can hear the one starting to call. I think he's getting hungry, the baby that's not lying with the other 3 at the moment. He's starting to tell that one that's still the adult that's still in the burrow, it's time to start eating. Little, typically when we have them in the mornings, it's just after they've spent a whole night sleeping. So with that being the case, they don't always display behavior like they're doing right now, which is quite special to see. But you will find them lying down quite a bit, especially when it starts heating up properly now, if they've foraged a bit and the bellies are full again and they know that it's time to, duck down into a burrow just for the warm part of the day. That's when you'll find them lying down underneath a bush or so. If they don't feel threatened about something like a snake or so, they might not even go into a burrow. They'll just find a thick clump of bushes and rest there during the day, where you'll find most of the adults and the little ones lying down and sleeping a little bit. If they are not in the burrow, you'll find one being on constant lookout. But it's absolutely true. We don't often see them lying down like that, just because when they do lie down, they're most likely in the burrow, and it's not a place where our eyes can fall. But yeah, see, very, very jumpy always. There's a eastern clapperlark that's busy flying around, and there was a pigeon or a dove that flew past just now. So any arboreal threat is always going to have them dashing. The wind is also picking up slightly, which will make them a bit more paranoid, not for us necessarily, but also just, then their sense of hearing does go away a little bit, because everything is making sounds. Even the wind is making a noise in your ears. So you can imagine, for them having such sensitive hearing, when that gets taken away, they are going to be a little bit more paranoid. But then again, going from paranoid to asleep in 2 seconds. There's one individual came right up to Craig. He's sitting about a meter away from him, and he's just been chilling in the shade there now. I'm pretty sure if Craig sticks out his arm, he'll be not able to touch it, but he'll be maybe 40 centimeters away from it. Not that we're going to do it, though. We don't want to give him a fright. But this guy looks very comfortable with us. Yeah, guys, we're going to see if they want to get a little bit more active, see if the babies want to maybe wake up properly and start foraging. For the meantime, we're going to send you somewhere else, okay?
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
What makes Anbion Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at Anbion Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
So you can see it's a big foot up in the air and fast asleep with a full belly. But look how amazing that is. That young female went up, she walked straight towards this young male, lay down, and now she's just resting her paw on his leg. I must say it's one of the things that I really love about lions is the social interactions that they have between each other. And a lot of the time, there'll be almost like this one connection from one lion or another, and in some way or other, or lying right next to one another. And see that group there. I mean, there's countless shady trees on offer that they could go and lie under in this one big group. And this young white lioness, she looks like she's been in the wars recently. She's got a little cut that I think is recovering on her eye, but then there's a notch on her left ear that's quite bloody. So that could have been trying to get a piece of that wildebeest. And also one or two scars on the nose. There's a blood stain below her left eye on her cheek. And her belly compared to males and the big female behind her is almost non-existent. So she must have been able to get something to feed, but because she and her sister are the two smallest ones, they would have just been bullied off of that very small wildebeest. And that's why she's looking a lot skinnier than the rest of them. Still not anything to worry about. But she would be one of the ones that would appreciate another meal sometime in the next couple of days. So Suzanne, they both have got unusual eye colors, and I don't think it's really blue. It's more of like a grayish color, whereas a lion's eyes tend to be very, very brown, and so it's got a bluey tinge to it, but it's more of a gray color, and they both have got very similar colored eyes. So that's something that obviously the white is the outstanding difference. But then if you look at the male facing away from us and the female, the tawny female in front of us, if you look at the difference in the colors behind their ears, the tawny female in the foreground has got completely black spots, and that's very typical with lions. And then if you go just behind and look at the male, you see it's very brown. And the same thing at the very end of their tails. Normal lions have got the black spot at the end of the tail. And these white lions tend to have exactly the same color. So it's usually a white spot, or it will look like the color of at the back of their ears. And then another difference, if you look very closely at the female, at her paw, the white female who's got her paw upside down. At this age, because they're very active and they're walking around, you might not be able to see it, but there is a bit of a pink edge to the toe. The tawny are completely black underfoot. So when these white cubs were brand new, they had these tiny little pink feet. So Maria, I think this pride will definitely have some sort of split eventually. And it's just because, like you say, I mean, if a pride of lions gets too big, there's too many mouths to feed, and so eventually they will split off. Which happened in, it must have been, I think, 2012, where this pride was, I think, in their 20s. So it was 5 females and a lot of cubs, and they ended up splitting off. And they share a boundary. So this Pride of Lions hangs around the central and the eastern part of Ngala. Then there's their Breakaway Pride. It hangs around in the western part of Ngala and out of further. And from time to time, and they do recognize one another because there's not major conflicts. And there was actually a time where the Birmingham Breakaway Pride and the Birmingham Pride were seen together feeding off of the same carcass. They were feeding off 2 buffaloes in the riverbed. And so these lions are flat and not doing anything. I think we might try and find something else, but there's some action at the dam cam.
Well, while the lions are flat, the Egyptian geese are being very busy. You can see there's a pair that are drifting about on the dam itself. They scooping up and filter feeding. Actually, the one in the front is. These guys mostly eat grass, but every now and then if there's an algae bloom or something like that, you'll find that they'll just take their beaks and they'll kind of dip it in, and then they'll start to sort of filter out from there. But unfortunately, the wind is really howling. You can actually see the waves that are kind of being made on the dam itself. Normally, this is a very calm, pleasant sort of little paddle for these ducks, but today they're kind of being blown sideways as they head towards the far edge of the pan. Surprised to see that there's no chicks with them. I mean, those of you that are on the dam cam a lot will probably know why, or will have known if there was. But generally this time of the year, most Egyptian geese have little ones with them, multiple little ones at that. Unfortunately, they are heavily predated, so they get taken by fish eagles and catfish and crocodiles and leopards. But I don't know why these two, maybe they're new to the area, maybe they overthrew the last lot. And that's why they don't have little ones yet, and they will soon. These guys breed pretty prolifically through the summer months. You find them kind of having little tormenting terrors that squawk pretty quickly, and a number of them. They are super cute though when they're little, I must be honest. I do have a soft spot for a tiny little Egyptian goose. I'm not a huge fan of an adult, but when they're tiny, they are very, very, very cute. They're super fluffy, like most little ducks, to be honest, or geese. They're always very cute when they're small. Priscilla, no, Egyptian geese are not migratory. They are pretty stationary in the same area. You'll find, like, once you have a pair at a dam, they're pretty territorial about it, so they'll try and chase others away. If you look at Chitwa Dam, there's actually a few pairs there because the dam is big enough, but there's constantly fighting and bickering going on. The other day I actually saw at Chitwa Dam, I think it was like 38 Egyptian geese, all fighting with one another and making a huge amount of noise, as only they can. So they generally though, they won't move unless they are forced to move by another pair that's competing and chases them off, or they're a youngster that's distributing away from the adults and to find its own watering point. There you go, you can see them now. They're starting to actually feed properly. So this is them kind of eating grass, and they're a pain in the bottom, particularly for people that just have sports facilities that require grass. So if it's like something like a tennis court or a golf green or even a cricket pitch, these guys will go and they basically eat and pull up little tufts and cause all kinds of damage. So they're not they're not welcomed warmly on any of those sporting venues. And cause a lot of trouble. And of course, what they don't eat, they kind of shoot out the rear end massive piles of white and black liquid that makes for quite a messy area when they've been around, that's for sure. And let's just come out and see. As far as I know, yes, they do form a bond for life, unless, of course, there is a termination of that by a predator. So unfortunately they are taken quite regularly by, like I was saying, by a number of different animals. Even though they can fly, sometimes they get caught unawares. I've seen the crocodiles at Chitwa Dam take a number of adult Egyptian geese, and when that happens, then obviously they're going to find another mate, but generally they stay together. It's I would imagine well, for us it's quite hard to actually identify certain individuals because they look pretty similar, but I'm pretty sure they are monogamous and made for life. I'm going back for a little swim now. Now that we've come round to the shallows and there's not so much of a wind and the dam wall's protecting them, it's much easier for them to come out. So you can see they're kind of in the far corner of the dam. And the dam wall is just to the right here. They're busy paddling towards it, and you can see how much calmer the water is in that right-hand side. It's not nearly as kind of roughed up. It's a smooth surface, and that's because that bank is just protecting it. And I'm sure that's where they're going to go. They're going to start paddling in that much cleaner, sort of less turbulent water, if you wanted to call it that. I wonder if these winds are the prelude to the potential tropical cyclone that is on its way towards this area. They're saying that we should hit us by Saturday or Sunday if it gathers enough momentum in the Madagascan Channel or the Mozambican Channel. But it'll be interesting to see. You can see there's actually a little grey heron in the background there in the shade. Come on, focus. So it's, hold on, I've just got to get the focus right. There we go, look at that. Hey, we're winning. We're even getting focusing right. But there's the heron, it's still fishing, and then above the heron is a, well, what looks like a party light. There is foam nest tree frogs that seemingly had an absolute ball on that branch. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 foam nests on there. So it was obviously a busy time for the frogs at one point, and it's a really cool little spot to have because it's a nice little branch. They've got their little nests, and underneath is water but with lots of vegetation, so it's the perfect place for little tadpoles to drop in and be able to evade predation and the likes of herons and various other things. They can get in amongst the grass and out of the way of fish as well. So it's a perfect little branch that's for foam nest tree frogs. There is another foam nest that is absolutely ridiculous at this dam, which I'll try and get for you guys now. It's quite far on the other side of the dam, so we'll just quickly shoot around. Sorry that we're zooming so quickly. Claire, you say it's so nice to have me on Zoom. I'm not sure it is. I think I'm going to make you all sick by zooming around too much. But it's quite fun, actually. I'm quite enjoying it. There's lots of little things to discover. Now, this is what I wanted to show you. Is if you look at the water here and this tree, you can see where the branch starts to come to the left on the right tree, the right-hand side dead tree. There's a foam nest up there. Now, look at the height from the water to the nest itself. I'll zoom into where the nest is. You'll see it in the middle of your screen now. There we go. It is way up there. So unlike those other nests where it's a nice gentle drop and into a nice safe habitat, these little poor tadpoles are going to be living life on the edge from day one, because they are going to, unfortunately, have to plummet a good, I would say that must be probably a good 20 feet, maybe 15 feet in the air. They're going to have to plummet all the way down. And the other problem is that at the bottom, do you see there's some kind of growth that's going on? Yes, there's a little bit of water there, but that will fast dry. Soon that won't have a lot of water. And so if they haven't developed in time, they're going to be plummeting that drop onto hard ground, which most certainly will not do the tadpoles any good. But amazing to think that frogs have climbed all the way up that tree, onto that branch, made their little nest there, and that little tadpoles will fall from there all the way to the water. Absolutely incredible. Wonder why they chose so high. There's so many other little spots around the dam that are perfect for their nest. It's also so exposed to the elements. It's a weird spot. Maybe they just decided this was a good way to kind of get out of the way of any sort of predators that could be around, climb nice and high. But that is extreme mating and nest making from those frogs, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to scout around and see what else I can find. No more signs of any alarm calls or anything like that. Talking about scouting around, let's send you across to Steve, who's continuing his morning bumble.
Slowly made our way into the area. Weren't able to pick up on any new tracks of Tingana. We found these two male wildebeest that have been steadily running away from us on this road. Don't run, fellows. On their way to the dam, it seems. Hello. And there they disappear. So we're not far from the dam cam itself. We're going to go around onto Galago. Have a look, see what's happening in Galago's side. See if we can hear any alarm calls. I wasn't told what was alarming, just alarm calls. Most likely impala, or could be monkey or baboon. I'm not sure. We'll just do a little bit of a loop around. Was impalas alarming. Lovely morning. Hasn't yet warmed up too much. Clouds have been a little bit in the way, but that's a good thing. Still potential for some of these predatory animals to be moving. But it is warming up enough that it's possible that there might be someone coming to drink. Tristan's watching diligently at the dam itself, at Voetel Dam. So we're going to go to Gallagher Pan. Oh, have a look at this grey-headed sparrow at 12 o'clock. You can hear him just on this little branch in front of us. JP, yes, it's quite easy to confuse male and female excuse me, wildebeest. The shape's the same, but the male's horns are slightly thicker. And if you look at them straight on, the ears of the male wildebeest and the horns are a similar sort of distance from the head, whereas the female's ears are a little bit longer than the horns. But it's easy to confuse, and it's one of the strategies that wildebeest employ to be able to stay within the herd for longer. As long as the male wildebeest don't behave like a male, they sort of bypass the scrutiny of a dominant male, and they're not able to stay within the safety of a herd for longer than they would be if they were acting like a male. Grey-headed sparrow, you can hear him chirping. Sort of brownish sort of shoulder. Just see a white spot on the shoulder. That's the white epaulet. See the wind is ruffling his feathers. Timber, very cute, very common bird. Grey-headed sparrow. This is known as the southern grey-headed sparrow. We do have a northern up in Botswana, I've seen, possibly even in the northern Kruger. I haven't seen one there, but definitely in Mashatu, southern Botswana, we get the northern grey-headed sparrow. These guys are here all year round. But it is breeding season. So all the birds are making so much noise. Carl wants to know where they lay their eggs. Are very well associated with holes, cavities, as well as buildings. Most swallows that we have in South Africa are very sort of well adapted with human habitation. They'll also lay them in old swallow, swift, or even buffalo weaver nests. And we heard Deirdre's cuckoo earlier that hosts on many of the swallows that not many of the weavers we see. The Deirdre's cuckoo is also a brood parasite of these fellows. So I've never actually seen the sparrow's nest. They're always sort of in crevices. So I think let's have a look, see if we can get a picture. It's normally inside, yeah. It's normally inside a cavity. You don't really get to see them, but they must probably line it with some of their own material. But we get the house sparrow and the Cape sparrow all over South Africa that have been very well domesticated, and they're very well associated with human buildings and habitation. If you have a roof, you will get both of those depending on where you find yourself.
While Steve is bumbling, I've been bumbling on the camera, probably driving everyone crazy. You can see some wildebeest on the far side that are just bypassing the dam. Just two of them so far that I've seen. They look as though they're pretty relaxed about life. They're not too worried, are they? And they're disappearing down central. So they came briefly past. There's also a hippo around. But he is being very shy at the moment. So I think what we'll do is just let you guys listen to the sounds of the dam and see if maybe he shows up at some point in the water. You know, being the graceful beings that they are, they're able to prance and sort of bumble about in the water and porpoise just like a ballerina would. And so hopefully that's what we'll see from our hippo. He can be quite an entertainer at some point, but like I said, we'll just sit and wait and see if he does anything for us while you listen to the sounds. Yeah, little Cape turtle dove calling above. Anyway, we're going to keep looking around. Hopefully our hippo will make more of an appearance in just a little bit.
Welcome to Gallagher Pan. Just outside in front of Gallagher Lodge itself here in Djuma, where the grass has grown quite long, but you can just make out the head of blacksmith lapwing. There he is. Often associated with water areas. Has there been any documentation this year? I know the last few years we've had blacksmith lapwings breeding on the dam cam. We've had a few little downy blacksmith lapwing chicks being born in and around the dam cam, which have been a delight for many. Ground nesting birds. They lay their eggs pretty much just out on the open, very exposed, but very camouflaged and almost impossible to find. They are very, very vigilant deterrence, been known to turn many a large animal away from their nest. Dolly, in Djuma, we get the, I've seen the African wattled lapwing, the blacksmith, the crowned, the Senegal. Sorry, not the, that's it. That's it that I've seen. There are a few others around the country, such as the long-toed, the black-winged, and the white-crowned and spur-winged, which I haven't seen here. The spur-winged is a bird I've seen up in Malawi. The white-crowned is very common on the very perennial rivers, the Olifants River and the Lavuva River in the Kruger. And the long-toed I've never seen before. Hang on 1 second. Just turn the radio down. The long-toed lapwings actually occur in Okavango Delta all the way through northern Zimbabwe into Mozambique. That's why I haven't seen them. But the blacksmith lapwing, you might wonder, where does the bird get its name from? And just have a listen to my hat. And this sounds like a blacksmith hitting a hammer on an anvil. Doesn't it? I think so. Well, that's where it gets its name from. The trade is not very well seen these days. Or blacksmiths. So the blacksmith lapwing doesn't need to make a sword. They're very aggressive birds when it comes to chasing away any form of predation. So it's almost as if they do have a sword. They're very, very vigilant and aggressive, and they'll chase away anything that comes near their nest or their chicks. Lots of courage in this small bird. It's all about confidence in nature, as the honey badger will show you. Confidence outweighs strength every single time. When something's very confident, the aggressor or the bigger of the two often thinks to itself, why on earth is this animal so confident? I might as well just step back. And courage is something that comes to us in a moment of need. Many of you might ask yourself, am I courageous? When put to the test, defense of your youngsters or defense of something, that courage comes forward. It's often in those trying times that our courage comes forward, and sometimes we might not know it until that time arises. You might have heard me say the blacksmith lapwing chicks are downies because they're born on, they hatch on the ground, and their body needs to be covered with down feathers so as to protect them from the sun. They don't have any shade, and so we call them downies, and they're able to move and walk around pretty much from the birth, whereas nestlings are birds in nests in the trees, and they're born naked, blind, and completely useless. So, Tony, you want to know how they protect their youngsters from predation? Well, they get aggressive and they bomb, and they get very loud and vociferous, and they'll chase and bombard all sorts of animals, from baboons to elephants, monitor lizards, jackal. They'll physically attack them. And it's quite something to see how courageous they can be. The crowned lapwing is a bird that occurs all over South Africa as well, and any golfer will be able to tell you how vigilant they can be, because they will dive bomb people walking around on golf courses to the point where you have to flee for your life. Good, good. Okay, well, we're going to carry on from here, see what we can find around the corner, and we're going to send you back over to Tswalu Kalahari.
Okay, guys, so quite a surprise. We left the meerkats. They're still baking in the sun, and came down this road. I actually thought I saw a leopard because the ears were up and a little bit lower. And we came across the two boys again, but they are in active hunting mode now. You can see those bellies are very small. Just see, don't know if they're going to move again. Let me go a little bit in. But yeah, they are looking very hungry. So they've either made kills and lost them to the hyenas, or they've just not been successful over the last 2 days, which, you know, happens. So let's see, maybe they give us a nice surprise now. The second boy is coming through now as well. So yeah, quite a nice surprise to have them. We weren't even expecting them. I actually thought they went to the other side of the mountains. But there is some gemsbok, some oryx, not too far away from us. I don't know if the cheetahs have seen them. I doubt it. They might have smelt them because the wind is coming from that side, but I don't think they've spotted them yet. And the way their bellies are looking, I think they'll go for an adult gemsbok at the moment as well. So that'll be very cool. But you can see they are actively looking to hunt. This is now not lazy anymore. We want to eat these guys. Always nice to see them when they are, you know, on a mission, because then there you can see that determination on the faces as well. Lee, their territory, these two boys have a huge territory. They're quite successful, they're quite dominant as well, so with that being the case, a very large territory. If I had to say in hectares, probably around maybe 30,000 hectares. So, I mean, it's just huge. They basically dominate the entire northeastern corner down, well, no, not even north, the eastern section, or almost the east, I wouldn't say half, but the eastern section of the Koranenberg side of Tswalu. So it is a monster of a territory. They probably have about 10 females, if not more, that they can mate with. So you can imagine the amount of genes that they're passing on at the moment. Just incredible. Very, very large. But okay, by default, the cats have larger territories in the Kalahari than you'd find in places like Kruger or so. Also, cheetahs, by default, the males have very large home ranges. Even in Kruger, you'll find them moving around quite a bit. So it is not uncommon for male cheetahs to have a very large area which they operate in. But over here, definitely, they'll have larger territories or home ranges than what you'd find in Kruger. And I also wish we could see them hunt at the moment. Let's hope they spot something soon and give us at least a chase. But I do want them to be successful, though. It seems like they really need something to eat. I see there's some springbok behind us, so hopefully soon, if they just move a little forward, they'll actually be able to see them. But they might be behind the bushes for them at the moment, but they're looking around all over the show, so I don't think it's going to be long before they spot something. They just need to keep moving. It is getting warm now, very warm, so that'll also entice them to rather lay down, but I think they're hungry enough to go through that feeling of laying down and rather continue with their hunting activity. Come on, boys, see the springbok now. They're about, the springbok guys, to give you an idea, they're about 400 or 500 meters away, for a cheetah they can stalk and cover that distance rather quickly and then try and make a chase. The only difficulty for them at the moment is the wind. The wind direction is exactly from them to the springbok. The springbok haven't picked them up yet. I can see they're still feeding relatively relaxed. But these boys, if they want to have a chance to do something, they need to continue moving. You can see it seems like the one brother is definitely more hungry than the other. Dan, yes, absolutely, they will if they can. As long as both of them live, the coalition will be quite strong. So they'll prefer being with one another for their whole lives. It just makes their chances of survival better. Chances to, remain in an area, dominant in an area for longer is also higher. So, absolutely, as long as they can, they will remain. It's in very seldom occasions that you'll find coalitions breaking up because they don't come right with one another or so. But with them being brothers, of the same litter, you'll find that they will definitely stay together for as long as they can. But yeah, guys, we're going to see if they do spot those springboks. If they do, we'll let you know. For the meantime, we're going to send you over to Tristan with his hippo, okay?
We do have our hippo. We found him in amongst the vegetation. As you can see, it's not exactly a clear view of a hippo. And a few trees in the way. But he is having the biggest snooze. He's kind of found himself a little bank and he's popped his head. And it might actually even be a log that he's using. You can see a little log sticking out the background. So he might have just put his head on a log and this is where he's going to have his nap for the day. It's difficult to make out because of the wind is moving the branches in the foreground. But every now and then his eye kind of opens up a little bit. But otherwise, they've been fairly closed while he's been sitting there. He even let out a big almighty kind of sigh as he lay on the log itself. Now, I'm hoping that this branch moves slightly because if you look to the front of his face, you can see his two nostrils. And then just to the sort of left of his two nostrils, there's a bump on his mouth there. Now that actually is where his tusks from inside the mouth are pushing the skin or the lip upwards. And it's not something you always see with hippos because often the way that they're lying or the sort of angle that you're looking, that raised sort of bump is not as pronounced or not as easily seen. Unfortunately, the leaves are just right in the way at the moment. But you can actually sometimes pick up where their canines are kind of pushing up on the lip a little bit. Well, not canines actually. I don't know why I said that. But their teeth are pushing up towards the sort of edge of their lip area. I was also hoping that while we were kind of sitting looking at him now is if that there was going to be a little terrapin that might crawl up onto their head. Often what you'll find is the terrapins love a little hippo raft. They come and they crawl and then they sit on top and they get the sun, especially when you have very blustery conditions like this, where there's a lot of vegetation around. They don't particularly like to be in amongst the thick grass, and so a hippo raft makes for the best spot just to go up and sit and be nice and comfortable, as well as very, very safe, because nothing's really going to attack you when you sit on the head of a hippo. Very, very little will try its luck, and it's why sometimes even birds will ride on the backs of hippos. There's a dam, I've spoken about this before, but there's a dam in Kruger called Sunset Dam, and the herons sit on the back of the hippos. It's so croc infested that's probably the easiest way to travel around fishing without worrying too much about crocodiles. And the added bonus about that is, if you're a heron, is that when hippos defecate, often a lot of fish follow them around, and they'll feed off what comes out. And so you find that there's all kinds of little fish that are right on the tail end of a hippo. And so not only do you have a raft that makes you move around the dam without you expending energy, you also have a safety blanket in the form of a hippo, and food is delivered to you because they're attracted to the hippo, just like the bird is. And it's a pretty interesting kind of relationship. The hippo doesn't benefit anything from it other than being pooped on from time to time, which I suppose is not a benefit unless you believe in the fact that birds pooping on you is good luck. But that's the only kind of benefit to being a hippo with a heron riding on top of it. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you guys is that the summer grasses and things like that really do make for, oh no, it's moved now. Make for amazing camouflage. This waterbuck over here, just now, when you zoomed out, you could hardly see it. It was behind this little thicket. In fact, there's actually 3 waterbuck here. There's not just the one. But they camouflage so well when the grass is as long as it is. You can just see the male's horns on the left of the screen kind of moving around behind the bushes there. But it goes to show you that neutral tones out here are best. And often, people will ask about when they come on a safari what they should wear. And neutral tones is always better because you'll find that they blend in much better. Unfortunately, I can't show you the example of that. I suppose the male in the back is a good one, but the female has now come out. All right, we'll keep zooming about. Hopefully we'll find something. It sounds like Steve has found, well, a relative of the terrapins we were talking about just now.
Well, we have got a Specs-hinged tortoise that is on the move. It's in the road, taking a nice little stroll, and off he goes, just like that, into the vegetation. So it is very dense and overgrown at the moment, everybody, but that's okay. It's part of the cycle of what happens out here. The Specs-hinged tortoise was in the road for a moment, just like that. As elephant herds disappear into the vegetation, so do tortoises quite easily. They're very mobile this time of year, always looking for water, feeding on the green, luscious green grass. Riley, a tortoise is fast, you say? No, definitely a fast over 100 meters. He's more of a long distance marathon runner. Tortoises are in no rush. They don't have anywhere else to go. They're very slow with their house on their back. See how nice and green it is. The grass is really looking good. Not only is there lots of nesting material, there's lots of hardy holes. Here's a fork-tailed drongo at 3 o'clock. Well, there was a fork-tailed drongo. There we go. It's going to stop nicely for us on the top of that tree. I had a fork-tailed drongo with a fledgling yesterday, with a brand new addition to the family outside my room. It was so amazing to see. Caught himself a beetle. He was very chuffed with how that had caught the beetle, the fast-moving beetle, and then swallowed it whole while Mum watched from nearby. Off they go. Talking about birds with vigilance and aggression, there's no bird that I've come across that's more vigilant and aggressive than the fork-tailed drongo when it comes to defending nests and chasing predators. You got that bird? Yes, what is it? It looks like a... Well, hello, what are you? It's like a female weaver. Is he feeding on the grass seeds there. Delicious. What are we? It looks like a female weaver. Of which species, I'm not certain.
Able to come in for you on?
Definitely feeding on the grass, distributing the seeds of the signal grass, a very important process of the ecology of birds in the distribution of grass seeds.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature. For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Okay, guys, so unfortunately it seems like these guys have decided it's a little bit too warm now. There is springbok. Those springbok are actually moving closer and closer to them. They're not close yet, but we did have a view of them just now, and they're probably now about 300 meters away. With them lying down like this, the cheetahs, I don't think they'll be able to spot them over the grass, though. And the wind is not blowing from the springbok to them. It is a little bit better now, though. It won't make the springbok aware of the cheetah's presence as well. But yeah, I think they might get a little lazy now and take a nap. If there is something that moves into the area, close proximity to them, I'm pretty sure they'll take a chance. These guys are really hungry at this point. But if there's not something that literally goes, like, walks right up to them, they're not gonna notice it. So possibly this afternoon will be a good idea to see if they are looking to hunt. Just come through and see if they have hunted. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately it is at that point of the drive where we can't stick with them for too much longer. We're going to have to say goodbye soon, until this afternoon. It's been lovely having all of you with us, with the meerkats this morning, and now with the cheetahs. It's a nice surprise. See them being a little bit more active than usual. The plan for this afternoon was to go to the dogs, but I think we might actually swing past these guys and see what they are looking to do before we head down that way. So we'll have a look and see if they're still looking hungry by that time or if they've made a kill. But yeah, please remember to come and join us this afternoon if you want to come and see what's going on in all the different locations that we have throughout South Africa. on channel 183 on DSTV. Also, you can follow us on YouTube. And remember to send us all of your questions using the hashtag Wild Earth, or if you want to send it to us directly via our website, you can use wildearth.tv, and we'll be able to answer all of your questions to the best of our ability. But yeah, guys, I think we're going to let these guys sleep. We'll come back this afternoon. We're going to say goodbye, okay? Ciao, ciao.